Tonight, we are walking beneath a sky older than memory. A sky untouched by the thunder of Zeus. A sky that belongs to stranger powers. As evening settles across the ancient world, you find yourself standing beside a quiet shoreline. Moonlight spills across dark water. Gentle waves roll against smooth stones. The scent of salt drifts through the cool air. Above you, countless stars shine with silent patience. The people of ancient Greece often looked upward and imagined stories hidden among those distant lights. They believed the heavens remembered everything. Every triumph, every betrayal, every promise spoken beneath sacred skies. And among all those stories, few felt more immense than the tale of the Titan War. It was the story of an empire that seemed eternal. It was the story of a family divided by fear. It was the story of how the rulers of the universe lost everything. Before we begin, if you enjoy these journeys into mythology, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And if you feel inclined, share your location and local time in the comments below. Somewhere beneath the same stars, another listener may be beginning this journey as well. Now the sea wind grows softer, the night deepens, and far beyond the world of ordinary men, the first chapter of an ancient mystery slowly unfolds. You begin your walk along a narrow path beside the water. The moon hangs low above the horizon. Silver reflections shimmer across the sea. In the distance, dark hills rise against the night sky. Cypress trees sway gently in the breeze, their branches whispering like old voices. Ancient storytellers imagined that before the familiar gods ruled from Olympus, the world belonged to older beings, greater beings, stranger beings. They called them the Titans. Even the name carries a certain weight, a sense of immense age, a feeling of something vast and half-forgotten. Yet the Titans were not monsters, not in the way later stories sometimes suggest. They were rulers, builders of an age long vanished, guardians of the first divine empire. Many ancient Greeks viewed them with a mixture of awe and unease. The Titans belonged to a distant past that felt both magnificent and dangerous. They represented powers closer to the raw forces of nature itself: the deep sea, the endless sky, the fertile earth, the passing of time, the burning sun, the pale moon. Every river, every season, every storm seemed connected to their ancient family. As you continue walking, the shoreline gradually fades behind you. The path begins climbing into the hills. Small insects hum among the grasses. The scent of wild herbs lingers in the cool night air. Somewhere nearby, water trickles across hidden stones. The landscape feels peaceful. Yet beneath that peace lies a question, a mystery that has fascinated listeners for thousands of years. How does an empire of gods fall? The Titans possessed unimaginable power. They ruled the universe itself. They commanded forces beyond human understanding. So what could possibly threaten them? Ancient poets offered many answers. Some claimed destiny itself turned against them. Others believed pride blinded their rulers. Some traditions spoke of ancient curses that stretched across generations. And a few stories suggested something even more unsettling. Perhaps the seeds of destruction existed from the very beginning. Perhaps the empire was already doomed before it truly began. The Greeks often saw history as a pattern rather than a straight road. One generation rises, another replaces it. Fathers lose power to sons. Kings become memories. Even gods cannot escape the turning of fate. As you climb higher, the sea disappears from view. Ahead stands a small sanctuary. Its marble columns glow softly beneath moonlight. Sacred fires burn within bronze bowls. Their flames flicker against white stone. You step closer. The warmth reaches your skin. The smell of olive oil and incense drifts through the air. These sanctuaries once stood throughout the Greek world. Some overlooked harbors. Others rested among mountain forests or beside quiet rivers. People came seeking guidance, protection, understanding. They offered wine, honey, fresh grain, sometimes small carved figures, sometimes prayers whispered beneath the stars. And many of those prayers concerned fate, because fate was one of the deepest mysteries in Greek thought. Even mighty gods feared it. Even kings trembled before it. Even entire civilizations could not avoid it. The Titan War became one of the greatest examples of that truth. It was not merely a conflict. It was a struggle between generations, between old order and new order, between stability and change, between fear and hope. Yet, if you had visited the world before the war began, you might have seen no signs of coming disaster. Fields were fertile. Rivers flowed. The stars followed their courses. The universe appeared calm, but appearances can be deceptive. A distant owl calls from somewhere beyond the sanctuary. Its voice echoes through the darkness. Ancient Greeks often viewed owls as messengers of wisdom. Yet birds could also carry warnings. Omens appeared everywhere in myth, in dreams, in storms, in unusual births, in strange movements of animals. The world was alive with signs. The challenge was understanding them. And according to some ancient traditions, signs had already begun appearing long before the Titan War erupted. Small signs, subtle signs, easy to ignore, a troubling dream, a whispered prophecy, a strange feeling beneath a clear sky. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious. Yet together, they formed a pattern only visible in hindsight. Historians continued to debate exactly how early versions of these myths developed. The stories evolved over centuries. Different regions preserved different traditions. Poets added details. Priests emphasized certain lessons. Still, one theme appears again and again. Power never remains still. No throne lasts forever. No ruler escapes change. As the sacred fire crackles beside you, you find yourself gazing upward. The stars seem brighter now. The sky stretches endlessly overhead. Somewhere beyond that darkness lies the future kingdom of Olympus. Somewhere beyond it waits Zeus. But Zeus has not yet been born. The Olympians have not yet risen. The great war remains far away. For now, another generation rules. Older gods sit upon older thrones, and beneath their magnificent empire, unseen tensions are already beginning to grow. Like roots spreading beneath stone, like distant thunder hidden beyond the horizon, like a prophecy waiting for its moment. The fire flickers, the wind shifts, and far back in the earliest age of the cosmos, the first rulers of heaven and earth prepare to enter the story. Before the Titans ruled before Olympus gleamed in morning light, there was Gaia. You may imagine her not as a distant goddess, but as the living ground beneath your feet. She is soil and stone. She is mountain root and valley shadow. She is the coolness of caves, the richness of fields, and the deep silence beneath every human road. Ancient Greeks did not see earth as empty matter. They saw presence. They saw motherhood. They saw a sacred body that could nourish, remember, and suffer. In the oldest surviving poems, Gaia rises near the beginning of all things. From the first emptiness, from the yawning mystery called chaos, she emerges wide and steady. She becomes the place where life can stand, and above her comes Cronus, the sky. He stretches over her like a vast blue dome by day and a star-filled ocean by night. His presence is immense. His silence is overwhelming. When you look upward in this first age, you feel him everywhere. Earth below, heaven above. Together, Gaia and Cronus form the first great divine union. At first, ancient listeners may have heard beauty in this image. The sky bends over the earth. Rain falls into soil. Seeds awaken. Rivers move. Forests rise. Creation breathes. Yet Greek myth rarely allows beauty to remain untouched. Beneath tenderness, there is tension. Beneath order, there is fear. From Gaia and Cronus come powerful children. The Titans are born first radiant and immense. Oceanus, the deep encircling river. Cronus, linked with inquiry and the northern heavens. Cronus, mysterious and stern. Hyperion, lord of heavenly light. Iapetus, ancestor of restless human destiny. And Cronus, the youngest, watching everything. There are daughters too. Theia, shining with divine brightness. Rhea, warm and regal. Themis, keeper of order. Mnemosyne, memory itself. Phoebe, luminous and prophetic. Tethys, motherly and oceanic. Together they fill the early cosmos with possibility. You can almost see them in a palace not yet made of marble, but of sky stone, mist, and fire. Their halls are mountain ridges, their columns are clouds, their lamps are stars. Their voices echo through valleys before mortals exist to hear them. But Gaia gives birth to other children as well. Stranger children, more frightening children. The Cyclops come into being one-eyed and mighty masters of hidden fire. Their names carry thunderous force. Brontes, Steropes, Arges, thunder-lightning brightness. Then come the 100-handed ones, Cottus, Briareus, and Gyges. Each bears 50 heads and 100 hands. They are not gentle figures. They are overwhelming forms of strength, storm, and earthquake. Even in myth, they seem almost too vast for imagination. And Ouranos looks upon them with dread. Here the story darkens. The Sky Father, who should shelter creation, becomes afraid of what creation has produced. Some ancient traditions say he hated these children from the beginning. Others suggest he feared their power. Another interpretation survives quieter and more tragic. Perhaps Ouranos saw in them the future end of his own rule. No one in the myth can know for certain, but fear changes him. Instead of allowing his children into the light, Ouranos forces them down into the hidden depths of Gaia. He buries them within their own mother. The earth becomes a prison. Creation becomes confinement. You feel the mood of the world shift. The air grows colder. The stars seem farther away. Beneath green hills and flowering meadows, divine children groan in darkness. The pressure of their captivity weighs upon Gaia. Every mountain becomes heavier. Every cave becomes a sealed wound. This is one of the oldest warnings in Greek mythology. A ruler who fears his children becomes the author of his own danger. The Greeks understood families as sacred, but also fragile. Fathers, sons, mothers, and daughters carried duties that held households together. When those bonds broke, disorder entered the world. In the story of Ouranos, disorder begins at the very top of creation. Gaia suffers silently at first. She endures. She holds her imprisoned children inside herself. But even the earth has limits. Some researchers believe this myth preserves a memory of ancient religious change, when older earth powers and sky powers were joined, separated, and reimagined. Others see it as a symbolic tale about fertility, fear, and succession. Yet, as you stand inside the myth, it feels more intimate. It feels like a mother in pain. One night, beneath a sky bright with cold stars, Gaia dreams. In her dream, the buried children stir. The Cyclopes strike stone with invisible fire. The 100-handed ones reach upward through blackness. The Titans stand in silence, uncertain whether to obey or rebel. Then Gaia sees a sickle. Its blade curves like a crescent moon. Its edge shines with a pale, merciless light. When she wakes, the dream remains. A divine sign has entered the world. Gaia shapes the sickle from gray flint or adamant, depending on the tradition. Ancient storytellers differed over the material, but not the meaning. It is a tool of harvest transformed into a weapon of revolution. A harvest is coming, not of grain, of power. Gaia calls her Titan children to her. You can imagine them gathered in dim mountain light while winds move through pine forests below. Sacred darkness surrounds them. The smell of damp stone rises from the ground. Far beneath them, their imprisoned siblings continue to suffer. Gaia speaks of injustice. She speaks of pain. She speaks of their father's cruelty. Then she asks who among them will act. The older Titans hesitate. Perhaps they fear Ouranos. Perhaps they love him still. Perhaps they understand that rebellion once begun cannot be neatly ended. Only Cronus listens differently, youngest of the Titans, ambitious, watchful, wounded by what he has seen. In him, fear and desire begin moving together. He looks at the sickle. He looks at his mother. And somewhere in the quiet spaces of destiny, the first throne of heaven begins to tremble. You remain among the shadowed mountains where Gaia has gathered her children. Night stretches across the young cosmos. Cold stars shine above the ridges. The wind moves through dark forests of pine and cypress. And somewhere deep beneath the earth, hidden far below roots and stone-imprisoned beings, wait in silence. Their suffering has lasted longer than any mortal life could imagine. Longer than kingdoms, longer than memory itself. The world above remains beautiful. Rivers continue to flow. Dawn follows night. Seasons move through their endless cycle. Yet below that beauty lies a wound. The Greeks often understood that visible harmony could conceal hidden disorder. A city might appear prosperous, while corruption spread through its halls. A family might seem united, while resentment quietly grew. The same pattern appears here. The cosmos itself looks peaceful, but beneath the surface, anger is gathering. As you descend in imagination toward those hidden depths, the air becomes colder. The scent of earth grows stronger. The light of the stars fades. Stone walls close around you. Ancient storytellers never described these places in exactly the same way. Some imagined vast caverns stretching beyond sight. Others envisioned prisons hidden within Gaia's living body. Historians continue to debate how listeners in different regions understood these images. Yet nearly every tradition agrees on one thing. The imprisoned children were not forgotten. The Cyclopes remained below. Brontes, Steropes, Argus. Their names echoed through darkness. Thunder, lightning, brightness. Though trapped, they never lost their connection to elemental power. Some stories suggest strange fires burned around them. Blue flames, white flames, fires without fuel. The kind of fire later generations would associate with volcanic mountains and divine workshops. You can almost hear distant hammering, metal striking stone, rhythmic, patient, as though they already sensed a future task waiting for them. Nearby remain the 100-handed ones, Codus, Briareus, Gyges. Even among divine beings they inspire awe. 100 hands, 50 heads. Ancient audiences may have viewed them as symbols of overwhelming natural force. Earthquakes, storm surges, the violence of the sea, the unstoppable movement of nature when it decides to act. But here they can do nothing. They sit in darkness. Their strength serves no purpose. Their hands cannot reach freedom. Their voices cannot reach the sky. And that perhaps makes their imprisonment even more tragic. Power without freedom, strength without purpose, existence without hope. Far above them, the Titans continue their lives. Yet the memory of those imprisoned siblings lingers, especially for Gaia. You return now to the surface. The stars still shine. Moonlight paints silver paths across hillsides. But Gaia no longer sees beauty without remembering pain. Every mountain reminds her. Every cave reminds her. Every tremor beneath the earth reminds her. The Greeks often believed that suffering leaves marks upon both people and places. A grief carried long enough becomes part of the landscape. Gaia's sorrow has become part of the world itself, and that sorrow is beginning to influence her children. The Titans are not identical. Each responds differently. Oceanus remains distant and thoughtful. Like the great river surrounding creation, he prefers balance over conflict. Themis watches quietly. Justice matters deeply to her, yet justice often moves slowly. Mnemosyne remembers everything. Nothing escapes memory. Not joy, not cruelty, not promises, not betrayals. Rhea feels compassion for her imprisoned brothers. But compassion alone does not change the world. And then there is Cronus, the youngest Titan, the one who accepted Gaia's challenge. You begin to notice something unusual about him. Unlike many of his siblings, Cronus spends time alone. He walks beneath moonlit skies. He stands beside cliffs overlooking endless seas. He watches storms gathering on distant horizons. Something restless moves inside him. Some later traditions describe him as ambitious. Others portray him as a reluctant hero. Another interpretation survives among ancient storytellers. Perhaps Cronus simply could not tolerate helplessness. Perhaps watching injustice unfold awakened something dangerous. Or perhaps he already desired power before Gaia spoke. No one can know. The myths leave room for uncertainty, and uncertainty often makes a character feel more real. One evening, while silver clouds drift across the heavens, Cronus experiences a strange dream. Dreams mattered deeply in Greek culture. They were not always ordinary products of sleep. Sometimes they carried messages, warnings, prophecies, visits from divine powers. In the dream, Cronus stands beside a vast river. The water is black. Stars reflect upon its surface. Across the river stands a throne, magnificent, empty. No ruler occupies it. No guards protect it. The throne simply waits. As Cronus approaches, a shadow falls across the water. He looks upward. The sky itself seems to crack. A great shape tumbles from above. A crown falls. A scepter falls. Then silence. When Cronus wakes, dawn is just beginning. Golden light touches distant mountains. Birds sing among olive trees. Yet the dream remains vivid. Its meaning is unclear. Did it promise greatness? Did it warn of danger? Did it reveal destiny? Ancient audiences often enjoyed such ambiguity. The future rarely announces itself plainly. Instead, it arrives through symbols and riddles. The dream follows Cronus for many days. Meanwhile, Gaia's pain grows harder to contain. The earth begins to respond. Tiny tremors shake valleys. Rocks shift unexpectedly. Deep rumbling sounds emerge from caves. To later Greeks, earthquakes often signaled divine displeasure. The world itself seemed capable of speaking. And Gaia is speaking now, not with words, with pressure, with unrest, with signs. At last, she summons her Titan children again. The gathering takes place within a sacred grove. Moonlight filters through ancient branches. Leaves whisper overhead. The smell of damp moss fills the air. A sacred fire burns at the center of the assembly. Its flames move strangely. Some witnesses later claimed the fire burned blue. Others said sparks rose upward and formed shapes among the stars. No version agrees completely. Yet all agree that the gathering felt significant. The atmosphere itself seems charged. Gaia speaks. Her voice carries the weight of mountains. She reminds her children of their imprisoned siblings. She reminds them of the fear ruling heaven. She reminds them that silence has solved nothing. Then she presents the sickle once more. Its blade catches the firelight. Cold, sharp, beautiful, dangerous. One by one, the Titans lower their eyes. The task is too great. The risk is too terrible. To challenge Ouranos means challenging the ruler of the cosmos. Even gods hesitate before such choices. Only Cronus steps forward. The sacred fire reflects within his gaze. For a moment, nobody speaks. The grove falls silent. Even the wind seems to pause. Gaia studies her youngest son. Perhaps she sees courage. Perhaps she sees ambition. Perhaps she sees both. Then she places the sickle in his hands. The metal feels cold against his skin, heavier than expected, filled with possibility, filled with consequence. Far above them, the stars continue their eternal journey. Far below them, the imprisoned children remain unaware. Yet destiny has begun moving. The first rebellion is no longer a dream. The first challenge to heaven has been accepted. And somewhere beyond sight, unseen by gods and earth alike, fate quietly waits to see what kind of ruler Cronus will become. The sickle rests in Cronus's hands. Its curved blade glimmers beneath moonlight. Around him, the sacred grove remains silent. The fire crackles softly among ancient stones. No one speaks. No one moves. The moment feels suspended between what has been and what is about to begin. You stand among the shadows of towering trees and sense the weight pressing upon the youngest Titan. Until now, resentment has existed mostly in whispers, in dreams, in hidden grief, in quiet conversations beneath the stars. Now it has become action. Now it has a weapon. Now it has a name. Cronus. Ancient audiences understood how frightening such moments could be. A family may endure years of tension without open conflict. Yet once a boundary is crossed, events begin moving with a force no one can fully control. The Greeks often recognize this pattern in both myth and history. One decision changes everything. One choice opens a door that cannot be closed. As the gathering ends, the Titans return to their domains. Oceanus withdraws to his vast waters. Hyperion turns his attention to the paths of heavenly light. Themis continues contemplating justice. Mnemosyne stores every detail within her endless memory. Yet each carries unease, because they know what is coming, and because they know they have allowed it. Cronus remains behind. The fire burns lower. The scent of smoke drifts upward through the branches. Above him, stars shine through small openings in the canopy. He studies the sickle again. Its surface reflects pale silver light. Some ancient traditions claimed Gaia forged it from adamant, a substance harder than any earthly metal. Others described flint shaped by divine hands. The material matters less than the symbolism. A harvesting tool, a blade that separates, a blade that cuts, a blade that ends one cycle so another may begin. The Greeks loved such symbols. Harvest itself reflected the rhythm of existence. Grain grows. Grain is cut. The field becomes empty. Then life returns. Death and renewal. Loss and transformation. The sickle embodies both, and that should worry anyone who holds it. For several nights, Cronus walks alone. He travels along mountain ridges where cold winds sweep through the darkness. He stands beside cliffs overlooking moonlit seas. He watches clouds drifting across constellations that have not yet received their later names. The world feels immense, beautiful, ancient. Yet beneath its beauty lies uncertainty. For the first time, you begin to sense that Cronus himself is uncertain. Many later retellings portray him as a simple villain. But the older myths are rarely so simple. Cronus is not born cruel. Not yet. He has witnessed genuine injustice. He knows his siblings suffer. He understands Gaia's pain. His anger is not entirely selfish. And yet, ambition now walks beside righteousness. The two can be difficult to separate. Perhaps even Cronus cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. One night, another sign appears. The moon rises blood red above the horizon. Its reflection stains the sea. The water seems touched by fire. Ancient people throughout the Mediterranean often viewed unusual celestial events as messages. A red moon, a comet, an eclipse. Such phenomena invited interpretation. Some later storytellers remembered this crimson moon as an omen before the fall of Uranus. Others never mentioned it. Historians continue to debate which details belong to early versions of the myth and which emerged later. Yet the image remains powerful. A red moon above a sleeping world. A warning hanging in silence. Cronus watches it for hours. And still he does not turn back. Far above the earth, Uranus continues his endless journey across the heavens. He appears untouchable. His vast form stretches from horizon to horizon. Clouds drift across his body. Stars travel within him. The universe itself seems woven into his being. How does one challenge such a ruler? The question troubles even the Titans. Yet fear has blinded Uranus. He believes power guarantees safety. He believes strength guarantees obedience. He believes his children remain helpless. The Greeks often viewed arrogance as one of the most dangerous flaws. Not confidence, not pride in accomplishment, something deeper. The belief that one stands beyond consequence. The belief that warnings no longer matter. The belief that fate applies only to others. This flaw appears again and again throughout mythology. Kings ignore prophecies. Heroes reject advice. Rulers dismiss danger. And eventually, reality arrives. Quietly, patiently, inevitably. As the appointed night approaches, Gaia prepares herself. You can imagine her awareness spreading through forests and mountains, through rivers and valleys, through every root and stone. The earth knows what is coming. The earth has waited a long time. Yet, even now, uncertainty remains. What if Cronus fails? What if Uranus discovers the plan? What if rebellion only creates greater suffering? Ancient myths rarely promise happy outcomes. Even necessary actions carry risks. Even justice has consequences. The final evening arrives. Clouds cover much of the sky. The stars appear only in scattered patches. The air feels unusually still. No birds sing. No insects hum. The silence itself feels like an omen. Cronus hides where Gaia instructs him, deep among shadows, close enough to strike, far enough to remain unseen. The sickle waits beside him. Its edge catches faint traces of moonlight. Time moves slowly. The wind remains absent. Then Uranus descends. The ancient stories become symbolic here, wrapped in imagery rather than literal description. Sky approaches earth. Heaven embraces Gaia. The familiar pattern of creation begins again. And in that moment, the trap closes. Cronus emerges from hiding. The youngest Titan moves with sudden certainty. Fear vanishes. Doubt vanishes. Only action remains. The sickle flashes. The cosmos changes. Ancient poets describe the event with powerful symbolism. They spoke of separation, of division, of one order ending so another could begin. The sky is cut away from the earth. Their endless union breaks. Space opens between them. Light enters places once hidden. The universe becomes larger, more distinct, more complex. And from the violence of that transformation come unexpected consequences. Drops of divine blood fall upon Gaia. From them arise new beings, the Erinyes, spirits of vengeance, the giants, and other mysterious powers connected to memory, justice, and retribution. Even in victory, consequences multiply. Nothing remains simple. Nothing remains contained. Far above, Uranus retreats, wounded, furious, defeated. His rule is ending. Before he disappears into the heights of heaven, he speaks. And his words become one of the most important warnings in all Greek mythology. He curses. He prophesies. He declares that Cronus, too, will one day lose power. Just as a son has overthrown his father, a son will overthrow him. The words echo through heaven and earth. The curse settles into the fabric of destiny. Some scholars believe this prophecy forms the true beginning of the Titan War, even though the war itself remains far in the future. Because from this moment onward, fear enters the bloodline. A fear that will shape generations. A fear that will haunt Cronus. A fear that will eventually awaken Zeus. The storm has not yet arrived, but its first thunder has sounded. And as dawn slowly approaches across the newborn world, Cronus stands beneath a widening sky, holding the sickle that changed the cosmos and carrying a prophecy he cannot escape. Dawn spreads across the world. For the first time, heaven and earth stand apart. A vast space now exists between Gaia below and Uranus above. Clouds drift through it. Winds travel through it. Sunlight pours through it. The universe feels larger, more open, more alive. You stand upon a hillside overlooking fertile valleys. Morning mist curls across rivers. Wildflowers cover the meadows. Birds glide through the fresh air. Everything appears peaceful, and in many ways, it truly is. Cronus has succeeded. The old ruler has fallen. The imprisoned grip of fear has been broken. A new age begins. Ancient Greeks would later remember this era as the Golden Age. The phrase carries a powerful sense of longing. Even thousands of years later, poets spoke of it with wistful admiration. A time before hardship, a time before endless labor, a time when harmony seemed possible. Yet as you walk through this mythic landscape, you begin to notice something curious. The Golden Age is beautiful, but it is not perfect, and perhaps it never was. Cronus now sits upon the highest throne of creation. The youngest Titan has become king, the ruler of gods, the master of heaven, the guardian of cosmic order. The transformation is remarkable. Only a short time ago, he hid among shadows, holding a sickle. Now, divine power gathers around him like sunlight. Ancient audiences often found such changes fascinating. Power alters people, sometimes slowly, sometimes immediately. A throne reveals qualities that ordinary life keeps hidden. What kind of ruler will Cronus become? The question hangs quietly over the new age. For now, however, peace prevails. The Titans flourish beneath their king. Oceanus guides the vast waters encircling the world. Hyperion oversees celestial light. Theia radiates divine brilliance. Phoebe watches sacred mysteries. Mnemosyne preserves memory. Themis tends to justice and order. Rhea stands beside Cronus as queen. Together, they create a realm of extraordinary stability. The Greeks imagined this age as a time when the earth offered gifts freely. Fields produced grain without plowing. Fruit ripened naturally upon branches. Streams ran clear and sweet. No armies marched. No cities burned. No kings demanded tribute from frightened subjects. You wander through countryside untouched by conflict. Olive trees sway gently beneath warm sunlight. Bees drift among blossoms. The air carries the scent of herbs and wildflowers. Everywhere you look, abundance surrounds you. Many later Greeks found comfort in these images. Life in the ancient world could be difficult. Harvests failed. Wars erupted. Storms destroyed ships. Disease appeared without warning. The Golden Age represented the opposite of those anxieties, a memory of harmony, or perhaps a dream of it. Some researchers believe these stories reflected a widespread human tendency to imagine a lost paradise in the distant past. Others suggest they symbolized innocence before civilization's complexities emerged. Yet, within the myth itself, the Golden Age remains something more intimate. It is a moment when hope still feels possible, a moment before fear returns. Because fear always returns, at least in Greek mythology. As the seasons pass, Cronus proves himself capable. He governs wisely. He listens to counsel. He honors many of his siblings. The wounds left by Cronus begin to heal. The cosmos settles into a stable rhythm, yet one shadow remains. The imprisoned children, the Cyclopes, the hundred-handed ones. Their fate has not changed. This detail often surprises modern listeners. Cronus overthrew his father partly because of their suffering. Yet once he gains power, he does not free them. Different traditions explain this differently. Some claim he feared their strength. Others suggest he simply forgot them amid the responsibilities of rule. Another interpretation survives among storytellers. Perhaps Cronus understood them too well. Perhaps he recognized that beings powerful enough to challenge Cronus could one day challenge him. The possibility lingers, and that possibility matters, because the Greeks repeatedly returned to one uncomfortable truth. Those who rise through fear often remain vulnerable to fear. The prison beneath the earth remains sealed, dark, silent, waiting. Far below the flourishing world above the Cyclopes continue their endless confinement. The hundred-handed ones continue their isolation. The wound has not vanished. It has merely been covered, like cracks hidden beneath fresh paint, like embers concealed beneath ash. One evening, as golden sunlight fades across distant mountains, Rhea walks beside a sacred grove. The air feels warm. Cicadas sing among the trees. The scent of pine drifts through the twilight. She pauses beside a clear spring. The water reflects the first evening stars. And there, according to some ancient traditions, she experiences a strange moment. A vision, not a full prophecy, not a spoken message, only a feeling, a ripple of unease. The reflection in the water changes. For an instant, she sees a child she does not recognize. A young face, bright eyes, a gaze filled with determination. Then the image disappears. The spring becomes ordinary once more. Many versions of the myth omit this scene entirely. Others preserve similar omens connected to Rhea. Historians continue debating their origins. Yet such moments fit naturally within Greek storytelling. The future often announces itself quietly, not through thunder, through hints, through fleeting signs, through questions that remain unanswered. Rhea returns to the palace, uncertain what she has witnessed. She tells no one, not even Cronus. The mystery remains her own. Meanwhile, life continues. The Titan court flourishes. Great halls rise among mountains and clouds. Sacred fires burn through the night. Songs echo beneath star-filled skies. The divine family gathers for feasts. Laughter fills the chambers. Wine flows freely. For a time, the old wounds seem distant, almost forgotten. Yet memory is never truly absent. Mnemosyne knows this. The goddess of memory watches quietly. She remembers Cronus. She remembers Gaia's suffering. She remembers the curse spoken beneath the stars. Others may choose not to think about it. She cannot. Memory preserves everything. The Greeks understood this deeply. A painful event does not vanish simply because people stop discussing it. The past remains alive, waiting, influencing decisions, shaping destinies. And somewhere beyond the visible heavens, Cronus still exists. Though no longer king, he remains part of creation. His words still linger. His prophecy still moves through the cosmos. Like distant thunder beyond clear skies, years pass, then decades, perhaps even centuries. Time flows differently among divine beings. The Golden Age endures, but a subtle change begins. Cronus grows increasingly protective of his power, not openly, not dramatically, only small signs. A hesitation when discussing succession, a careful glance when hearing prophecies, a growing interest in anything connected to destiny. The change is gradual, easy to overlook. Yet it matters, because fear rarely arrives all at once. It grows, quietly, patiently, one concern at a time, one doubt at a time, one warning remembered too often. The king who once rebelled against fear is slowly learning to fear rebellion. And high above the peaceful world, the stars continue their eternal courses, silent witnesses, watching the Golden Age shine, watching the first cracks begin to form. watching destiny move closer with every passing year. For the prophecy has not been forgotten. It is waiting, and soon it will speak again. The golden age continues to shine. Fields remain fertile. Rivers flow through peaceful valleys. The stars follow their appointed paths across the heavens. From a distance, the reign of Cronus appears secure. The old wounds seem healed. The old conflicts seem finished. Yet beneath every calm surface, unseen currents move. And beneath every throne, shadows gather. You find yourself approaching the great halls of the Titans. The palace rises upon a high mountain where clouds drift below marble terraces. Bronze torches burn with steady flames. Sacred fires glow within open courtyards. The scent of cedar wood and incense drifts through the cool evening air. The halls are magnificent. Their columns seem carved from moonlight. Their roofs gleam beneath the stars. Music echoes softly through vast chambers. Laughter rises from feasting tables. Yet even here, anxiety has begun to enter. Not openly, not yet, only in moments, only in silence, only when certain subjects arise. Cronus sits upon his throne, watching the festivities below. His crown shines in the firelight. His expression remains calm, but something within him has changed. The prophecy of Cronus still lives in his memory. Years have passed, perhaps centuries. Yet the words remain clear. A sun will overthrow you. The warning returns whenever he gazes at the stars, whenever he hears discussions of fate, whenever dreams disturb his sleep. Ancient Greeks believed prophecies possessed tremendous power, not because they always revealed exact details, but because they planted fear, and fear could transform decisions. Again and again, myth shows rulers creating the very futures they hope to avoid. The prophecy becomes a trap, not because it is false, but because people respond to it. One evening, as twilight settles across the mountain, a visitor arrives. The visitor is not a warrior, not a rebel, not an enemy. It is prophecy itself. Different traditions describe the event differently. Some claim Gaia and Cronus delivered the warning together. Others say ancient powers of fate revealed it. Another interpretation suggests the prophecy emerged through dreams and sacred signs rather than direct speech. The details vary. The meaning does not. Cronus receives a message. His own child will someday take his throne. The certainty strikes him like cold water. You can imagine the silence that follows. The firelight flickers. The stars shine beyond open windows. The king who once overthrew his father suddenly sees himself in the role of the father. The pattern has returned. The cycle has closed around him. And for the first time, true fear enters his heart. The Greeks often viewed fear as more dangerous than any enemy. A visible threat can be confronted. An invisible fear grows within. It changes thoughts. It alters judgment. It whispers during sleepless nights. Cronus begins searching for reassurance. He consults signs. He studies omens. He questions wise counselors. Themis speaks carefully of justice and balance. Mnemosyne reminds him that fate often unfolds in unexpected ways. Neither offers the certainty he desires, because certainty does not exist, not even for kings, especially not for kings. Meanwhile, Rhea watches. The queen notices the changes before anyone else. She sees the way Cronus stares into sacred fires. She notices how often he asks about destiny. She senses the tension beneath his calm exterior. At first, she believes time will ease his concerns. Surely wisdom will overcome fear. Surely the ruler of the cosmos will not become a prisoner of prophecy. But the fear grows stronger. Then comes the first child. The palace celebrates. Sacred fires burn throughout the night. Songs echo across mountain slopes. Stars gleam above joyful gatherings. The child is Hestia, gentle, peaceful, the future goddess of hearth and home. Rhea holds her newborn daughter beneath torchlight. Warmth fills her heart. Hope fills the palace. For a brief moment, happiness seems stronger than prophecy. Then Cronus arrives. The atmosphere changes immediately. No storm appears. No thunder sounds. The horror comes quietly. Ancient listeners would have known what was about to happen. Yet the story never loses its power. Fear overcomes love. Cronus takes the child and swallows her. Silence follows. A terrible silence. The sacred fires continue burning. The stars continue shining. Yet everything feels altered. The Greeks understood that some moments divide life into before and after. This is one of them. Rhea stands frozen. The palace falls still, and the first sacrifice to fear has been made. Ancient audiences found the image deeply symbolic. Cronus does not destroy his child through battle. He consumes her. He tries to keep power by preventing growth itself, by stopping the next generation before it can emerge. The symbolism is haunting. Time devouring what comes after it. A ruler devouring the future. A parent devouring hope. Yet the tragedy does not end. More children follow. Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Each birth brings joy. Each joy ends in grief. Again and again the pattern repeats. Celebration becomes sorrow. Expectation becomes loss. The palace grows quieter with each passing year. The halls remain magnificent. The feasts continue. The music still plays. Yet beneath everything lies absence. Invisible children. Unspoken grief. A family living beside a wound that never closes. Rhea suffers most of all. You walk with her through moonlit courtyards. The marble feels cool beneath bare feet. Night winds move through olive trees. Owls call from distant branches. She appears regal before others, strong before the court, but alone she mourns. Ancient Greek myths often grant emotional depth to mothers, and here Rhea becomes one of mythology's most tragic figures. She cannot protect her children. She cannot stop her husband. She cannot escape the prophecy shaping both their lives. And yet she continues hoping. Hope survives longer than reason sometimes allows. One night after Poseidon is lost, Rhea experiences a dream. The dream begins beside a mountain cave. A stream flows nearby. Wild bees hum among flowers. Sunlight fills the entrance. Inside the cave stands a child. Not an infant. Not fully grown. A young figure surrounded by golden light. The child looks directly at her, then points toward the sky. Thunder rolls across distant peaks. A great eagle appears overhead, and the dream ends. Rhea awakens before dawn. Her heart races. The image remains vivid. A cave, a child, an eagle, thunder. What does it mean? No answer comes. The mystery remains. Some ancient traditions preserve dreams like these as signs from destiny itself. Others left them unexplained. Perhaps that uncertainty is the point. The future rarely reveals itself clearly. It offers fragments, symbols, hints, enough to inspire hope, enough to inspire fear, but never enough to remove choice. As dawn slowly brightens the eastern horizon, Rhea stands alone upon a palace terrace. Below her stretch peaceful valleys. Above her shine fading stars. The golden age still appears beautiful. The empire still appears strong. Yet she now understands something others do not. The prophecy is not finished. The story is not over. And somewhere beyond sight, another child waits within the unfolding designs of fate. The dream remains with Rhea. Days pass, then weeks. Yet the image refuses to fade. A cave, a child, thunder among distant mountains, an eagle crossing the sky. Whenever she closes her eyes, she sees it again. Ancient Greeks often believed that certain dreams carried more weight than ordinary sleep. Most dreams belong to the wandering mind. But some seem to arrive from elsewhere, from the gods, from fate, from hidden corners of the cosmos where the future already existed. Rhea cannot know which kind of dream she has received, but she feels its importance. And soon events begin moving toward it. The queen discovers she is carrying another child. The news spreads quietly through the palace. Servants whisper. Sacred fires receive offerings. The Titans offer blessings. Yet beneath every ritual lies unspoken fear. No one mentions the prophecy. No one speaks openly about the fate of the previous children. Still everyone remembers. The silence itself becomes a form of memory. You walk through the great halls beside Rhea. Bronze lamps flicker along marble corridors. The scent of olive oil and cedar wood lingers in the air. Outside sea winds sweep across mountain slopes. Everything appears unchanged. Yet, the atmosphere feels heavier now. Every smile carries uncertainty. Every celebration feels incomplete. Cronus notices the pregnancy immediately. His expression remains controlled. His voice remains calm. But his eyes betray him. Fear has become part of him. The prophecy follows him everywhere. It waits beside his throne. It sits beside him at feasts. It whispers during sleepless nights. Ancient storytellers understood something profound about fear. The more desperately someone tries to avoid it, the more power it gains. Cronus once challenged a tyrant. Now he is becoming one, not through cruelty alone, through fear. The transformation is gradual, and that makes it all the more tragic. Rhea sees it clearly, perhaps more clearly than anyone else. The husband she once loved remains present, yet he seems increasingly distant, as if part of him lives inside the prophecy now, as if he spends his days fighting shadows no one else can see. One evening, while twilight settles across the mountains, Rhea seeks counsel. Different traditions tell different versions of this meeting. Some say she visits Gaia herself. Others claim ancient earth spirits guide her. A few stories suggest secret conversations with trusted titans. The details vary. The outcome remains the same. Rhea decides she will not surrender another child. The decision changes everything. You find yourself standing beside her in a sacred grove illuminated by moonlight. Ancient trees rise overhead. Their branches sway gently in the night wind. The smell of damp earth surrounds you. Nearby, a spring flows over smooth stones. The water reflects stars. Gaia appears not as a distant deity, but as a living presence within the landscape, within the trees, within the soil, within the mountain itself. And Gaia remembers. She remembers the prison of her children. She remembers the fear of Ouranos. She remembers the rebellion that followed. Patterns are repeating, again and again and again. The Greeks often saw history moving in cycles. Fathers fear sons. Rulers fear successors. Power creates insecurity. Insecurity creates suffering. Gaia recognizes the pattern immediately, and she offers Rhea a plan. Far from the Titan court lies the island of Crete, a place of rugged mountains and hidden caves, a place where sea winds sing across rocky cliffs, a place distant enough to conceal a secret. There Gaia says the child may survive. There destiny may continue its work. The plan is dangerous. If Cronus discovers the deception, the consequences could be terrible. Yet Rhea no longer sees another path. The child must live. Weeks become months. The pregnancy advances. Meanwhile, signs begin appearing. Small signs, subtle signs, easy to dismiss. A sacred eagle circles the palace repeatedly. Thunder echoes from cloudless skies. Strange flowers bloom out of season. Ancient audiences loved such details. The universe itself seemed aware that something important approached. Some researchers believe these omens reflect older religious traditions connected to Zeus's birth cults in Crete. Others suggest they simply heighten dramatic tension. Within the story, however, they feel natural. The world senses change. The world remembers destiny. At last, the time comes. The night is moonless. Clouds cover the stars. Sea winds move across dark waters. Rhea departs in secret. Only a few trusted companions accompany her. Their vessel slips away from shore beneath darkness. The palace disappears behind them. The sea stretches endlessly ahead. You stand beside the queen at the prow of the ship. Salt spray touches your face. The wooden deck creaks softly beneath your feet. Black waves rise and fall beneath the hull. Far overhead, hidden stars remain invisible behind drifting clouds. The journey feels uncertain, ancient, almost dreamlike. Crete eventually emerges from the darkness. Its mountains rise sharply from the sea. Their silhouettes seem enormous beneath the night sky. Even today, the island carries traces of ancient mystery. Archaeological discoveries reveal sacred caves, shrines, and traditions stretching back thousands of years. Many ancient Greeks genuinely believed Zeus had been hidden here. The island became woven into the myth itself. As dawn approaches, Rhea reaches the mountain sanctuary. The air feels cooler at higher elevations. Wild herbs grow among rocky slopes. Bees drift through patches of flowers. The scent of pine and thyme fills the morning breeze. And there, concealed among cliffs and forests, stands the cave from her dream. The sight takes her breath away. The entrance, the stream, the surrounding hills. Everything matches. Exactly. For a moment, the boundary between dream and reality seems to disappear. Ancient listeners would have recognized this moment immediately. A prophecy is unfolding, not because it removes uncertainty, but because reality begins echoing the symbols that came before. Inside the cave, shadows dance across stone walls. The air feels cool and still. Water drips softly somewhere in the darkness. And there, hidden from Cronus, Rhea gives birth. The child arrives as dawn spreads across the mountains. Golden light touches distant peaks. Birdsong fills the air. The first rays of sunlight enter the cave. The infant cries, a small sound, a simple sound, yet it carries enormous consequence. Zeus has entered the world, the future king of Olympus, the future wielder of thunder, the future challenger of titans. Yet none of that is visible now. He is only a newborn child, small, vulnerable, dependent. Ancient myths often emphasize this contrast. Great destinies begin in humble moments. Power begins in weakness. Victory begins in survival. Rhea holds the child close. For the first time in many years, hope feels stronger than fear. But the danger is not over, not even close. Cronus still waits. The deception must continue, and before the sun sets again, a stone wrapped in swaddling cloth will begin one of the greatest acts of deception in all mythology. Morning sunlight fills the mountains of Crete. Golden rays spill across rugged cliffs. Wild goats move along narrow paths above deep valleys. The sea glitters far below, stretching endlessly toward distant horizons. And hidden within a sacred cave, the future of the cosmos sleeps peacefully. Zeus is alive. For now, that is enough. The infant rests in Rhea's arms, while cool air drifts through the cave entrance. Nearby, water flows from a spring that has nourished travelers and shepherds for generations. The scent of pine thyme and flowering herbs fills the mountain breeze. The place feels protected, ancient, removed from the fears that dominate the Titan court. Yet far away, those fears continue their work. Because while Zeus begins his life in secrecy, another drama unfolds at the palace of Cronus. Rhea returns carrying a bundle wrapped in cloth. Her heart remains steady. Her face reveals nothing. Inside the swaddling lies not a child, but a stone. Different traditions describe it differently. Some call it an ordinary rock chosen from the mountains of Crete. Others describe a sacred stone prepared by Gaia herself. Whatever its origin, its purpose remains the same. It must save a child. You can almost feel the tension as Rhea approaches the throne. Torches burn along the palace walls. The scent of incense drifts through the air. Titan nobles gather nearby. No one speaks. No one dares. Cronus receives the bundle. Fear guides him as it has guided him before. Without hesitation, he swallows it. The deception succeeds. The prophecy remains hidden. And somewhere across the sea, a child survives. Ancient Greeks later preserved the stone as an object of great significance. At Delphi, a sacred stone known as the Omphalos became associated with ancient traditions surrounding Zeus and the center of the world. Historians continue debating how these stories became connected, yet the symbolism feels natural. A stone takes the place of a child. A hidden truth waits beneath appearances. A future king survives because fear cannot distinguish reality from illusion. Back in Crete, Zeus begins to grow. The island becomes his first kingdom, not a kingdom of marble halls and golden crowns, a kingdom of forests, caves, mountains, and sea winds. Ancient traditions offer many stories about those who cared for him. Some speak of divine nymphs. Others tell of nurturing spirits hidden among sacred groves. Many versions mention Amalthea, often imagined as a miraculous goat, whose milk sustains the young god. The details differ. The atmosphere remains consistent. Zeus grows surrounded by nature rather than power, surrounded by caretakers rather than courtiers, surrounded by freedom rather than fear. You walk through the mountain landscapes beside him. Morning mist lingers among valleys. Birds circle above rocky peaks. The ground feels warm beneath the sunlight. Streams sparkle as they descend toward the sea. These experiences shape the child. Even future rulers are influenced by their surroundings. The Greeks understood this well. Character develops through environment as much as destiny. And Zeus's environment is unlike anything Cronus could imagine. One famous tradition tells of the Curetes' armed guardians who protect the hidden child. Whenever Zeus cries, they clash their shields and weapons together. The noise echoes through the mountains. Metal strikes metal. Sharp sounds roll across the valleys. The purpose is simple: to prevent Cronus from hearing the infant's voice. Whether ancient listeners imagine this literally or symbolically remains uncertain. Some researchers believe the story reflects old ritual dances once performed on Crete. Others see echoes of forgotten religious ceremonies. Within the myth, however, the image feels vivid. Warriors dancing beneath mountain skies, protecting hope itself, protecting the future. Years pass. Zeus grows from infant to child, then from child toward youth. Time flows differently in divine stories. A few sentences may contain decades, yet certain moments remain clear. You see him running through pine forests, climbing rocky slopes, watching storms gather above distant seas. Unlike Cronus, who grew within the halls of power, Zeus grows beneath open skies. The mountains become his teachers. The winds become his companions. The stars become familiar guides. One evening, as twilight settles across Crete, Zeus experiences his first strange dream. Dreams continue to weave through this story, as they often did in Greek mythology. The young god stands atop a mountain. Below him stretches an endless world. Forests, rivers, seas, cities not yet built, temples not yet raised. Then he sees a great tree. Its roots reach deep into darkness. Its branches touch the stars. At first, the tree appears strong, immovable, eternal. Then a crack forms within the trunk. The sound echoes across the world. The tree begins to fall. Zeus awakens before dawn. The dream remains vivid, yet he cannot understand it. How could he? He knows nothing of prophecies, nothing of Titan kings, nothing of the fate waiting beyond the horizon. The mystery remains unanswered. Ancient audiences often appreciated such moments. Dreams did not always provide immediate explanations. Meaning unfolded gradually. Just as life unfolds gradually. As Zeus grows older, signs continue appearing around him. A golden eagle often circles overhead. Thunderstorms seem strangely drawn to nearby peaks. Animals approach him without fear. Some traditions even claim sacred springs flowed more strongly in his presence. Perhaps these are merely later embellishments. Perhaps they reflect genuine cult traditions surrounding the young Zeus. No one can know with certainty. The myths preserve possibilities rather than facts. Yet the signs matter, because signs shape belief, and belief shapes destiny. Meanwhile, far away, Cronus remains unaware. The king continues ruling during the fading years of the Golden Age. His empire appears stable. His throne remains secure. Yet beneath that security lies growing unease. The prophecy never leaves him. Fear continues whispering in his thoughts. The children he swallowed remain imprisoned within him. Invisible, silent, waiting. Sometimes he dreams of them. A hand reaching through darkness. A voice calling from far away. A door slowly opening. He always awakens troubled. Ancient Greeks often believed suppressed truths eventually return. The past cannot remain buried forever. The future cannot remain prevented forever. These ideas form the heart of many myths. And nowhere are they more powerful than here. Back in Crete, Zeus stands upon a cliff overlooking the sea. The sun sets in brilliant colors. Orange, gold, crimson. Waves strike the rocks far below. Cool wind moves through his hair. He gazes toward distant horizons, toward lands he has never seen, toward a future he does not yet understand. Something calls to him, not a voice, not a command, only a feeling, a sense that he belongs to something larger, a sense that his life carries purpose. The stars begin appearing one by one above the darkening sea. Ancient lights, silent witnesses, watching the hidden child become stronger, watching destiny draw nearer, watching the future king of the gods take his first steps toward the war that will someday shake the heavens themselves. The years pass like drifting clouds above the mountains of Crete. Zeus is no longer a child. He stands tall now, strong from climbing rocky slopes and crossing rugged valleys. Sea winds have become familiar companions. Storms no longer inspire fear. Instead, he watches them with fascination. There is something in thunder that speaks to him, something familiar, something waiting. You find yourself beside him on a high ridge overlooking the sea. Morning sunlight spreads across the water in bands of gold. Fishing boats appear as tiny shadows far below. Eagles circle among rising currents of warm air. The world feels vast, filled with possibilities, yet questions remain. Who is he truly? Why has he been hidden? Why do the guardians of Crete watch him so carefully? Why do certain visitors lower their voices whenever he approaches? The mystery that protected his childhood can no longer remain intact. Zeus has begun noticing the gaps in every explanation. Ancient myths often place their heroes at this threshold. The moment when innocence meets knowledge. The moment when questions become impossible to ignore. One evening, beneath a sky crowded with stars, answers finally begin to emerge. The night is calm. Crickets sing among grasses. The scent of wild thyme drifts through the air. Sacred fires flicker outside the cave that sheltered him long ago. There, among trusted companions, Zeus learns the truth. Not every detail at once. The story unfolds gradually, like a veil being lifted. He learns of Cronus, the ruler of the cosmos, the king of the Titans. He learns of the swallowed children, the missing brothers and sisters he has never met. He learns of the prophecy, the fear, the deception, the stone, the secret journey. And finally, he learns who he truly is. The revelation changes everything. You can almost see it happen. The mountains remain unchanged. The stars remain unchanged. Yet the world feels different because knowledge has altered it. The Greeks often viewed knowledge this way. Powerful, necessary, dangerous. Once certain truths are known, they cannot be forgotten. Zeus spends many nights alone afterward. He walks among moonlit forests. He stands beside crashing waves. He watches constellations move slowly across the heavens. The future stretches before him. Yet uncertainty remains. What should he do? How should he act? The prophecy points toward conflict. But conflict is not yet inevitable, at least not in his mind. And this hesitation reveals something important about Zeus. Unlike later rulers who rush toward war, he pauses. He thinks. He questions. For all his future power, wisdom will matter as much as strength. And it is during this period of reflection that he encounters one of the most important figures of his life. Métis. Ancient Greeks remembered Métis as wisdom itself. Not wisdom of books, not wisdom of laws. Something older, more instinctive, more subtle. The wisdom of timing, the wisdom of strategy, the wisdom that understands how power truly works. Some traditions describe her as a titaness. Others emphasize her ancient, almost elemental nature. Either way, she possesses something Zeus desperately needs. Insight. You meet her beside a sacred spring hidden among olive trees. The water flows clear over white stones. Dragonflies drift above its surface. The afternoon air feels warm and still. Métis sits beneath the shade of a great tree. She appears calm, observant, entirely unafraid. When Zeus speaks of destiny and prophecy, she listens quietly. When he speaks of overthrowing Cronus, she asks questions. Many questions. Questions that reveal weaknesses in simple plans. Questions that expose assumptions. Questions that force him to think more deeply. The Greeks admired this quality. True wisdom did not provide easy answers. It taught people to ask better questions. Métis becomes both advisor and companion. Days turn into months as their conversations continue. They walk beside rivers. They watch storms gathering above distant peaks. They discuss justice, power, fear, memory, the nature of fate itself. And gradually, a realization emerges. Cronus cannot be defeated through strength alone. The Titan King rules the cosmos. He commands immense power. A direct challenge would likely fail. No, another path must exist. A subtler path, a wiser path. One night, while a storm rolls across the sea, Métis experiences a dream. The dream feels strange, even by divine standards. She stands within a palace made entirely of glass. At its center rests a sealed vessel. Inside the vessel, 5 stars glow faintly. A 6th star approaches from outside. Then the vessel breaks. The stars emerge. Together they illuminate the heavens. When Métis awakens, thunder echoes beyond the mountains. Rain taps softly against stone. The dream lingers, and with it comes understanding. The swallowed children, the imprisoned gods. They are the key. Ancient audiences loved such moments. Solutions arriving through dreams. Wisdom emerging through symbols. Not because the answers appear magically, but because insight often works that way. A puzzle remains unsolved. Then, suddenly the pieces align. Métis shares her vision with Zeus. The meaning becomes clear. The children swallowed by Cronus are not gone. They remain within him, alive, waiting. If they can be freed, everything changes. The balance of power shifts immediately. Yet another question remains. How? How does one force a Titan King to release what he has consumed? Again, wisdom provides the answer. Not strength, not violence. Wisdom. Métis prepares a special potion. Different traditions describe it differently. Some call it a divine mixture. Others describe enchanted herbs gathered from sacred places. A few ancient storytellers remain deliberately vague. The exact ingredients matter less than the symbolism. Knowledge creates the solution. Patience creates the opportunity. The preparation itself takes time. Under moonlight, Métis gathers rare plants from mountain slopes. She visits hidden springs. She collects herbs known only to ancient powers. The process feels almost ritualistic. The air smells of earth and leaves. Stars shine above quiet forests. Owls call from distant branches. Everything seems to move according to a larger design. Meanwhile, Zeus prepares for a journey. The time has come to leave Crete, the island that protected him, the mountains that raised him, the caves that sheltered him. You walk with him one final time through familiar landscapes. Morning mist curls through valleys. Goats move across rocky hillsides. The sea sparkles beneath sunlight. Every detail feels precious, because endings often reveal the value of what came before. Ancient Greeks understood this deeply. Departure carries its own kind of sorrow, even when the destination promises greatness. As Zeus gazes across the island, another sign appears. An eagle circles overhead, higher and higher, then disappears into bright clouds. The image recalls Rhea's dream from years ago. The eagle, the child, the promise hidden within symbols. The callback feels almost inevitable now. Destiny has been moving steadily forward all along, not rushing, not forcing, simply unfolding. The young god boards a ship as twilight settles across the sea. The waves rise and fall beneath the vessel. Stars emerge overhead. Crete slowly fades behind him. Ahead lies the kingdom of Cronus. Ahead lies deception. Ahead lies risk. And ahead lies the first true plan against the Titan Empire. Not a plan of swords, not a plan of armies, a plan of wisdom, a plan born from patience. A plan that may soon free the lost children and awaken forces that have slept since the earliest days of the world. The sea carries Zeus northward through the night. Dark waves rise and fall beneath the ship. Moonlight drifts across the water in trembling silver paths. The wind smells of salt and distant rain. Far behind him, the mountains of Crete fade into darkness. Ahead waits the kingdom of Cronus. Ahead waits destiny. You stand beside the young god at the edge of the vessel. He says little. The rhythm of the sea seems to encourage silence, yet his thoughts move constantly. He has learned the truth. He has accepted the burden of the prophecy, and now he approaches the ruler who would have destroyed him. Ancient Greek audiences understood the tension of such journeys. Many myths contain moments when a hero moves toward an encounter that will define the rest of his life. The future seems close enough to touch, yet uncertainty remains. Nothing has happened yet. Everything could still change. Above the ship, clouds drift slowly across the stars. One constellation appears briefly before disappearing again. Ancient sailors often watched the heavens carefully. The stars guided voyages. They marked seasons. They offered signs. And on this particular journey, Zeus cannot help noticing a strange pattern. A cluster of stars seems brighter than usual. 5 lights gathered close together. The image reminds him of Métis' dream. 5 stars trapped within a vessel. 5 siblings waiting inside Cronus. A small sign. Perhaps coincidence. Perhaps something more. The Greeks often left such questions unanswered, and that uncertainty gave myths their lasting power. After several days, Zeus arrives near the lands ruled by the Titans. The world here feels different, older, heavier. Mountain peaks rise above layers of mist. Ancient forests cover valleys untouched by mortal hands. Sacred rivers flow through landscapes shaped during the earliest ages of creation. The beauty is undeniable, yet beneath it lies tension, like a palace built over buried foundations, like a smile hiding worry. The empire of Cronus still stands, but unseen pressures are gathering beneath its surface. Zeus moves carefully. Métis' plan depends upon patience. Strength must remain hidden. Purpose must remain concealed. Different traditions tell different versions of what happens next. Some describe Zeus entering Cronus's service disguised as a cupbearer. Others present him as a trusted newcomer welcomed into the court. The details vary. The essential truth remains. Zeus gains access, and with access comes opportunity. You enter the halls of the Titan King once more. The palace remains magnificent. Marble columns gleam beneath torchlight. Bronze braziers cast warm reflections across polished floors. The scent of cedar incense and sacred oil fills the air. At first glance, nothing appears wrong. The empire still looks eternal. That is often how great powers appear shortly before they change. Cronus sits upon his throne. Years have passed since Rhea's secret journey. The king remains powerful. His presence still commands attention. Yet age has touched him in subtle ways, not physical age. Divine beings experience time differently, something deeper. The age of worry, the age of fear, the age of carrying a prophecy too long. His eyes often seem distant, as though part of his attention remains fixed on dangers no one else can see. The prophecy has become a companion, an unwelcome one, yet constant. Zeus observes all of this carefully. He learns the rhythms of the court, the habits of its ruler, the patterns hidden beneath ceremony and grandeur. Wisdom requires observation before action. Métis taught him that. Days pass, then weeks. The opportunity finally arrives during a feast. The great hall glows with torchlight. Music drifts through the air. Titan nobles gather around long tables laden with food and wine. Outside night settles across the mountains. Stars appear beyond open windows. The moment feels ordinary. That is precisely why it matters. History often changes during seemingly ordinary evenings. The potion prepared by Métis waits, small, unremarkable. Its appearance reveals nothing of its purpose. Yet within it rests the possibility of revolution. Zeus serves the drink. Cronus accepts it. No thunder sounds. No divine voice announces what is happening. Only a simple act. A cup offered. A cup received. A cup consumed. Then time passes. At first, nothing changes. Conversation continues. The feast proceeds. Laughter echoes through the hall. Yet gradually discomfort appears upon the king's face. A shadow crosses his expression. His hand tightens around the arm of the throne. The atmosphere shifts. Guests exchange uncertain glances. The musicians fall silent. Something is happening, something impossible. Ancient poets describe the scene dramatically. The potion takes effect. The barriers holding the swallowed children begin to break. And one by one, the lost gods return. First comes Hestia, then Demeter, then Hera, then Hades, then Poseidon. The sequence varies in some traditions, but the result remains astonishing. The children are alive. Alive after years beyond counting. Alive despite fear. Alive despite prophecy. Alive despite every attempt to prevent their future. The hall erupts in shock. You can almost hear the gasps, the confusion, the disbelief, the impossible becoming real. For the first time, Zeus sees his siblings, not as dreams, not as stories, as living beings. Each carries traces of long confinement. Each emerges changed by the strange experience of existing within Cronus. Yet they survive, and survival itself carries power. The Greeks often celebrated endurance. To survive hardship was not merely to continue living. It was to become something stronger, something deeper, something wiser. The reunion feels almost unreal. Imagine meeting family members whose existence you have known only through stories. Imagine discovering they are real, standing before you, breathing the same air, looking at you with the same mixture of wonder. For a moment, conflict seems distant. For a moment, there is only recognition, only connection, only the quiet miracle of return. Yet beneath the emotion lies another question. Who will lead? The siblings have returned, but the future remains uncertain. Hestia possesses calm wisdom. Demeter carries deep compassion. Hera radiates dignity. Hades reveals quiet strength. Poseidon possesses fierce energy. And Zeus stands at the center of the prophecy. The hidden child, the survivor, the architect of this moment. Ancient traditions increasingly place him in the role of leader. Yet leadership is never automatic. It must be accepted, earned, proven. The newly freed gods gather together beneath the stars that night. The feast has ended. The palace feels transformed. The old certainty has vanished. You stand with them upon a terrace overlooking the sleeping world. Below lie forests and rivers. Above shine endless constellations. Cool night air moves through the columns. For a long time no one speaks. There is too much to absorb, too much to understand. At last, Poseidon breaks the silence. He points toward the heavens. A shooting star crosses the darkness. Brief, brilliant, gone. An omen, or perhaps simply a reminder. The future is moving now. The prophecy is no longer hidden. The lost children have returned, and somewhere within the vast empire of the Titans, the first tremors of a coming war are beginning to spread. The shooting star fades into darkness. For a few moments, its silver trail lingers across the heavens. Then even that disappears. The night becomes still once more. Yet, nothing is truly still anymore. The return of the lost children has changed everything. A balance that endured for ages has been broken. A secret that shaped the Titan Empire has been exposed. And now across the vast reaches of the cosmos, choices must be made. You remain upon the palace terrace beside the newly reunited gods. Cool wind drifts through marble columns. Torches flicker softly behind them. Far below, forests stretch toward distant mountains where moonlight pools among valleys and rivers. The beauty of the world remains unchanged. Yet the future no longer feels certain. The Greeks often understood that history turns not only upon battles, but upon decisions. A sword may end a conflict. A choice begins one, and many choices now lie ahead. Zeus stands with his siblings beneath the stars. The prophecy has brought them together. But prophecy alone cannot create unity. Trust must still be built. Relationships must still be formed. For the first time, the children of Cronus speak openly. Hestia's voice carries warmth and steadiness. Demeter speaks with compassion, shaped by endurance. Hera possesses dignity and fierce intelligence. Poseidon radiates restless energy, like waves striking a rocky coast. Hades listens more than he speaks. Quiet, thoughtful, observant. Ancient audiences often appreciated this variety. The Olympians were never identical. Each carried different strengths, different flaws, different desires. Their future alliance would succeed precisely because they were different. Together, they formed something greater than any individual could become alone. Yet while the younger generation gathers news spreads rapidly through the Titan world. Messengers travel between sacred mountains. Whispers move through palace halls. Rumors cross rivers and seas. The impossible has happened. Cronus has failed. His children live. The prophecy remains active. Every Titan understands the significance immediately. No one can remain neutral forever. As dawn approaches, the first responses begin. You travel now through the wider world of the Titans. Across landscapes touched by ancient divinity, the great Oceanus hears the news beside the endless waters that circle creation. Waves move with eternal rhythm. Mist rises from distant horizons. Oceanus listens quietly. Unlike many of his kin, he has never hungered for power. He values stability, balance, continuity. The coming conflict troubles him deeply. Some traditions suggest he avoids direct participation in the war. Others portray him as sympathetic to Zeus. The ancient stories do not fully agree, and perhaps that uncertainty reflects something real. Not every figure in history chooses clear sides. Some hesitate, some struggle, some remain caught between loyalties. The same is true here. Elsewhere, Themis considers the unfolding events. The goddess of divine order understands something important. Justice and stability are not always the same thing. A stable system can still be unjust. An unjust system eventually creates instability. The distinction matters, and many Titans now find themselves wrestling with similar questions. Is loyalty owed to Cronus because he rules? Or is loyalty owed to a future that may prove more just? No answer feels simple. No answer feels safe. The Greeks often recognized that moral choices become most difficult when good values come into conflict. Loyalty, justice, family, order, freedom, all matter. Yet sometimes they point in different directions. Meanwhile, Cronus retreats into thought. You find him alone within a high chamber overlooking the sea. The room feels vast, silent. The scent of extinguished incense lingers in the air. Outside, clouds gather over distant waters. For the first time in many years, the king faces a reality he cannot ignore. The prophecy is alive, not merely as a possibility, as a fact. His children stand together. His hidden son has returned. The future he feared is approaching, and fear once again begins shaping his decisions. Ancient Greek storytellers repeatedly return to this tragic pattern. A ruler receives a warning. The warning inspires fear. Fear creates harmful choices. Those choices help fulfill the warning. The cycle continues. Cronus remembers Ouranos, perhaps more clearly than ever before. He remembers the sickle, the rebellion, the curse, the fall of a father. For a moment he glimpses something unsettling, the similarity, the reflection, the possibility that he has become what he once opposed. Yet recognizing a pattern does not guarantee escape from it. Fear remains stronger, at least for now. Across the Titan realms, alliances slowly form. Hyperion remains loyal to the old order. Coeus supports Cronus. Creus stands beside the Titan king. Others make similar choices, not necessarily because they admire fear, not necessarily because they oppose Zeus. Many simply believe change threatens the stability of creation itself. This detail often gets overlooked. The Titans do not see themselves as villains. They see themselves as protectors of a world that has functioned for ages. To them, rebellion risks chaos, and chaos terrifies even gods. The coming war becomes more tragic when viewed through their eyes. Both sides believe they are defending something valuable. Both sides fear what may happen if they lose. And somewhere between those fears, conflict grows. One evening, as crimson sunlight fades behind distant peaks, Zeus receives a visitor. The Titan Prometheus, young by Titan standards, thoughtful, curious, different. You meet him beside a quiet stream flowing through olive groves. The water reflects the colors of sunset. Birds settle into trees. The air feels calm. Prometheus carries no weapons, only questions. Ancient traditions often portray him as unusually perceptive, a titan capable of seeing possibilities others miss. His arrival feels significant, perhaps even prophetic. The conversation remains private, yet one statement survives in later traditions. Prometheus warns that victory will belong not to brute strength, but to wisdom. The words remind Zeus of Métis. They remind him of patience. They remind him that destiny may favor those who understand, rather than merely those who dominate. Before leaving, Prometheus notices something. Far above them, an eagle circles through the fading light. The same recurring sign. The same symbol seen by Rhea years ago. The same image that appeared throughout Zeus's hidden life. The bird glides silently across the sky, then disappears toward the mountains. Prometheus watches it carefully. A thoughtful expression crosses his face, as though he recognizes meaning others might miss. Yet he says nothing. Some mysteries must unfold in their own time. Night settles across the world. Torches burn in palaces. Sacred fires glow in temples. Waves strike distant shores. The stars emerge one by one, and beneath those ancient lights, the cosmos slowly divides itself. Friends become opponents. Families become rivals. Choices become commitments. The Titan Empire still stands. Its mountains remain strong. Its rulers remain powerful. Its banners still fly beneath the heavens. Yet deep within its foundations, unseen cracks continue spreading. The age of certainty is ending. The age of war draws nearer. And before swords are raised or thunderbolts are cast, one quiet truth has already become clear. The world has begun choosing sides. The world grows quieter before great storms. Not silent, never silent. Waves still break against distant shores. Wind still moves through forests. Sacred fires still crackle within temple courtyards. Yet a certain stillness settles over creation, a feeling that something waits just beyond the horizon. You walk beside Prometheus through a landscape touched by evening light. Golden sunlight drifts across olive groves. Long shadows stretch between ancient trees. A river moves gently over smooth stones. The air smells of earth warmed by the day. Prometheus walks slowly, thoughtfully. Unlike many titans, he does not seem drawn toward displays of power. He observes, he reflects, he listens. The Greeks often admired this kind of intelligence. Not the intelligence that seeks domination, the intelligence that seeks understanding. Among the titans, Prometheus possesses a reputation for seeing possibilities others overlook. He notices patterns, connections, consequences, and because of that gift, the approaching conflict troubles him deeply. The empire of Cronus still commands immense strength. The younger gods still lack resources. Neither side fully understands what the coming war may cost. Yet Prometheus senses something important. History is already moving. The tide has begun to change. One evening, he climbs a high ridge overlooking the sea. You follow beside him. Below, waves shimmer beneath fading sunlight. Far away, islands rise from the horizon like dark blue shadows. The sky glows with shades of gold, violet, and crimson. The beauty feels almost painful, because beautiful moments often reveal how much can be lost. Prometheus sits upon a flat stone. For a long time he says nothing. Then his gaze lifts toward the heavens. The stars are beginning to appear, one by one. Patiently, ancient storytellers often connected Prometheus with foresight. His very name came to symbolize the ability to think ahead, to consider tomorrow, while others focus only on today. And tonight, foresight feels less like a gift than a burden, because he sees danger everywhere. If Cronus wins, fear may deepen its hold upon the cosmos. If Zeus wins, war may reshape creation in unpredictable ways. Victory and loss seem less distinct than many imagine. The Greeks often recognized this truth. A battle may end. Its consequences continue. As darkness settles fully across the world, Prometheus experiences a strange vision. Whether it arrives through sleep meditation or divine inspiration depends upon the version of the myth. The atmosphere remains the same. The future brushes briefly against the present. In the vision, Prometheus stands beside a vast river. Its waters flow beneath a sky filled with unfamiliar stars. On one bank stands Cronus, on the other stands Zeus. Between them rises a bridge woven from light. At first, the bridge appears strong. Then cracks spread across its surface. The structure begins to collapse. Yet, from the broken pieces emerge countless smaller paths, leading in every direction. Prometheus awakens with a troubled heart. The vision offers no simple answer. Only symbols, only possibilities, only questions. Ancient audiences understood that genuine prophecy often worked this way. The future rarely arrives as a detailed map. It arrives as fragments. Interpretation becomes part of the challenge. What does the bridge mean? The connection between generations, the fragile piece holding the cosmos together, the empire itself. Prometheus cannot know for certain. But one conclusion feels obvious. The old order cannot continue unchanged. The dream has shown him that much. Meanwhile, Zeus continues gathering allies, not through threats, not through force, through conversation, through trust, through shared purpose. You travel with him across valleys and sacred groves where Titan and Olympian sympathizers quietly meet. Moonlight illuminates hidden gatherings. Campfires burn among rocky hills. The scent of smoke drifts through cool night air. Voices remain low, careful. Every decision carries risk now. The division of the cosmos grows more visible with each passing day. Some titans openly support Cronus. Others hesitate. Others begin leaning toward Zeus, not because they know the future, because they sense change, and change exerts its own kind of gravity. The Greeks understood this as well. People often recognize when an age is ending long before they understand what will replace it. The feeling spreads through societies like an approaching season, difficult to explain, impossible to ignore. Prometheus eventually seeks out Zeus once more. Their meeting takes place beside a sacred spring surrounded by cypress trees. The night feels unusually clear. Thousands of stars fill the heavens. The water reflects their light like scattered silver. For a time, they simply watch the sky. The silence feels comfortable, meaningful. Then Prometheus speaks. He does not promise victory. He does not offer certainty. Instead, he offers a warning. Strength alone will not decide what comes next. The future belongs to those who understand when to act, when to wait, when to fight, when to forgive. The advice echoes Métis. It echoes wisdom itself, and Zeus listens carefully. One of his greatest strengths emerges here. He is willing to learn. Ancient Greek myths contain many powerful figures. Far fewer are willing to accept guidance. Zeus, at least in this stage of his life, remains open to counsel. That openness matters, because the challenges ahead will require more than courage. They will require judgment. Elsewhere, signs continue appearing throughout the world. A sacred fire burns with unusual brightness in a distant sanctuary. An eagle nests upon a peak where no eagle has ever nested before. A meteor crosses the sky above the sea. Different regions interpret these omens differently. Some see promises, others see warnings. Historians continue debating how ancient communities understood such stories. Yet within the myth, the pattern feels unmistakable. The cosmos itself seems alert, watching, waiting, or responding, as if creation recognizes the importance of what approaches. One night, Prometheus climbs another mountain. The air feels cold at this elevation. Clouds drift beneath him. The stars seem close enough to touch. He remains there until dawn, watching, thinking, listening to the silence between the winds. And in that silence, he arrives at a decision, a quiet decision, a personal decision, one that will influence the future. Prometheus chooses hope over fear, not because hope guarantees success, because fear has already shown what kind of world it creates. The choice feels small, almost invisible. Yet, history often turns upon such moments. A conversation, a promise, a private commitment made beneath the stars. Far below, the empire of Cronus still shines with grandeur. Its palaces remain strong. Its rulers remain mighty. Yet the foundations continue shifting. The old certainty grows weaker. The future grows nearer. And high above the sleeping world, beneath constellations older than memory, Prometheus watches the heavens and wonders whether destiny can truly be changed, or whether everyone, gods and titans alike, is already walking a path written among the stars. The question remains with Prometheus long after dawn arrives. Can destiny be changed? Or does every choice simply guide you toward an ending already waiting? The Greeks never offered a single answer. Perhaps that is why their myths endure. They leave room for uncertainty. They allow mystery to breathe. And now, as the first true fires of conflict begin to spread across the cosmos, uncertainty follows every step. You stand upon a high ridge overlooking a world suspended between peace and war. Morning mist drifts through valleys. Rivers shine beneath early sunlight. The sea sparkles far beyond distant hills. At first glance, creation still appears calm, yet appearances have become deceptive. The old order no longer trusts the new. The new order can no longer accept the old. And somewhere between those realities, conflict becomes inevitable. The palace of Cronus feels different now. The grandeur remains. The marble halls still gleam. Sacred fires continue burning in bronze basins. But the atmosphere has changed. The easy confidence that once filled these chambers has faded. Conversations stop when strangers approach. Messengers arrive at all hours. Councils meet behind closed doors. Fear moves through the empire like a cold wind. Cronus knows the situation is worsening. The prophecy he spent so long trying to prevent now stands openly before him. His children have returned. Zeus has revealed himself. Allies gather on both sides. The future can no longer be delayed. You find the Titan King alone, once again standing upon a balcony overlooking the sea. Clouds gather on the horizon, dark shapes moving across silver water. The sight reminds him of something. Storms. The same storms he once watched as a young Titan. The same storms he admired before fear transformed him. For a brief moment, memory softens him. He remembers Gaia. He remembers the sickle. He remembers believing that he would create a better world, a safer world, a freer world. The realization stings, because somewhere along the way, he lost sight of that dream. Ancient Greek myths often contain this tragedy. The hero of one generation becomes the obstacle of the next, not because he begins evil, because fear gradually changes him. And fear has changed Cronus profoundly. Meanwhile, Zeus continues preparing. The young god understands that open war carries terrible risks. The Titans remain powerful. The empire remains vast. Victory is far from certain. Yet he also understands that retreat is no longer possible. The line has already been crossed. You travel with him through sacred valleys where allies gather beneath hidden groves. The air smells of pine and wild herbs. Streams flow over smooth stones. Birdsong fills the morning silence. The setting feels peaceful, almost too peaceful, because beneath that calm plans are taking shape. Promises are being made. Loyalties are hardening. The Greeks often knew that wars begin long before the first battle. They begin in conversations, in decisions, in fears that remain unresolved. That process is happening now. The Olympians stand together more firmly than ever before. Hestia brings steadiness. Demeter offers compassion and endurance. Hera contributes intelligence and determination. Poseidon radiates fierce confidence. Hades remains thoughtful and reserved, yet his commitment never wavers. And Zeus increasingly accepts the role others see in him. Leader, not ruler yet, not king, but leader. The distinction matters. Leadership is earned through trust. Kingship comes later. One evening, as twilight settles across the mountains, a strange omen appears. A ring forms around the moon, pale and luminous against the darkening sky. Ancient people often viewed such celestial events with awe. Some interpreted them as warnings, others as promises, still others as signs that divine powers were watching. Different traditions preserve different interpretations. Yet, nearly everyone agrees that the sight unsettles those who witness it, even gods. The moon hangs within its glowing circle while winds sweep across the hills. No one can fully explain its meaning, and perhaps no explanation is needed. The omen simply reminds everyone that larger forces remain at work. The future is approaching, whether they welcome it or not. As weeks pass, small confrontations begin occurring across the divine world. Not full battles, not yet. More like sparks before a larger fire. Messengers are challenged. Sacred territories become disputed. Old friendships begin fraying. Ancient alliances strain under new pressures. The empire that once seemed united slowly divides. Prometheus watches all of this with growing concern. He moves between different regions of the cosmos, observing rather than commanding. He speaks with Titans. He speaks with Olympians. He listens more than he talks. And what he hears troubles him. Both sides increasingly describe the conflict as unavoidable. That word appears again and again, unavoidable. The Greeks understood the danger hidden within such thinking. Once people convince themselves that war cannot be avoided, they often stop searching for alternatives. The path narrows. Possibilities disappear. Destiny feels stronger. Yet, even now, uncertainty remains. Some scholars who study these myths suggest that ancient audiences may have recognized echoes of real human conflicts. Families divided, communities split by competing loyalties. The pain of watching familiar relationships break apart. The Titan War feels cosmic, yet its emotions remain deeply human. One night, Zeus experiences another dream. The dream carries echoes of the earlier vision he saw as a youth. Once again, he stands upon a mountain. Once again, he sees the great tree. But now, the tree has changed. Its trunk is split. Its roots tremble. Birds flee from its branches. And within the crack, a light begins to grow. Bright, golden, impossible to ignore. Zeus awakens before dawn. The dream lingers. Its meaning remains uncertain. Is the tree the Titan Empire? The old order? Creation itself? No answer comes. Only the feeling that change draws near. The mystery stays with him throughout the day. Ancient myths rarely explain everything. They trust listeners to wonder, to reflect, to carry questions forward. As summer gives way to another season, the tension finally reaches a breaking point. The Olympians establish themselves openly. No more hiding, no more secrecy, no more careful disguises. The challenge has become public. The Titan rulers respond in kind. For the first time, the cosmos divides into opposing camps. The separation feels unmistakable now, like a river splitting around stone, like a fault line opening beneath the earth. The old unity is gone. You stand at twilight upon a high mountain where winds sweep through the grass. Far away, sacred fires burn on different peaks. One fire belongs to the Titans, another belongs to the Olympians. Small points of light against gathering darkness. Yet those lights carry enormous meaning. They represent loyalty, hope, fear, memory, and soon war. Night falls slowly across the world. Stars emerge above forests, seas, and mountains. The moon rises pale and watchful. Somewhere an owl calls from a distant grove. Somewhere a storm begins forming beyond the horizon. And across the vast expanse of creation, the first fires of the Titan War burn beneath the ancient sky. The first fires burn through the night. small at first, scattered, distant. Yet each flame marks a choice already made. Each flame marks a loyalty that will not easily change. The Titan War has begun, not with a single battle, not with a single thunderclap, but with a gradual division spreading across the cosmos like cracks through ancient stone. You stand upon a mountain path as dawn slowly brightens the eastern horizon. Mist drifts through valleys below. Pine forests cover the slopes. Far away, the sea glimmers beneath the first touch of sunlight. The world remains beautiful. The world remains alive. Yet beneath its beauty, tension grows. Every breeze seems to carry rumors. Every river seems to carry news. Every sacred fire seems to whisper of coming conflict. And now, two mountains rise as symbols of the struggle. Two peaks, two visions, two futures. To the south stands Mount Olympus, seat of the Titans, ancient, majestic, weathered by ages beyond counting. Its cliffs rise above forests and clouds. Its halls have sheltered rulers since the earliest days of creation. The mountain feels heavy with memory, heavy with tradition, heavy with power. There, Cronus gathers his supporters. There, the old empire makes its stand. Far away rises another mountain, Olympus. High, brilliant, wrapped in mist and sunlight, though not yet the shining palace. Later generations would imagine Olympus already possesses an atmosphere unlike any other place. Its heights seem closer to the heavens. Its air feels clearer. Its horizons stretch farther. There, Zeus and his allies establish their center. There, the future begins taking shape. The Greeks loved symbols, and these two mountains became more than geography. They became ideas. Olympus represented the ancient order. Olympus represented possibility. Neither side viewed itself as evil. Neither side believed itself mistaken. That is what makes the coming war so tragic. Each believes it fights for the survival of the world. You travel first to Olympus. Clouds drift around the mountain's upper slopes. Cold winds move through stone corridors. Torches burn within vast halls carved during forgotten ages. The atmosphere feels serious, purposeful. The easy confidence of the Golden Age has vanished. In its place stands determination. Cronus presides over councils late into the night. Titan allies gather around long stone tables. Maps cover walls. Messengers arrive constantly. The king listens carefully to every report. Yet, even now something troubles him. The prophecy, always the prophecy. No strategy can silence it. No army can erase it. No preparation can fully quiet the fear it created. You notice how often his gaze drifts toward distant windows, toward the horizon, toward Olympus, towards the future he cannot control. Ancient Greek audiences would have recognized the irony immediately. The more power Cronus gathers, the less secure he feels. Fear has become a prison more effective than any dungeon. Meanwhile, Olympus grows stronger. You climb its slopes beneath clear skies. Wildflowers bloom among rocky paths. Eagles circle high above the peaks. Streams flow through hidden meadows. The mountain feels younger somehow, less burdened by memory, more open to change. Here Zeus continues learning. This detail matters. Many rulers believe they already know enough. Zeus does not yet. He listens to Metis. He listens to Prometheus. He listens to his siblings. Ancient Greeks often admired leaders who accepted guidance. Wisdom came not from possessing every answer. Wisdom came from recognizing the value of other perspectives. The Olympian camp reflects that principle. Hestia helps create harmony among allies. Demeter ensures resources remain plentiful. Hera offers strategic insight. Poseidon trains tirelessly for the battles ahead. Hades remains quiet but observant, noticing details others miss. Each contributes something essential. Together, they become more than a collection of individuals. They become a community, a vision of a different future. Yet, even on Olympus, uncertainty remains. Victory is far from guaranteed. The Titans still possess immense advantages. Their numbers remain formidable. Their experience remains unmatched. The old empire did not rule for ages through weakness. One afternoon, while clouds gather around distant peaks, Zeus visits a high overlook. You stand beside him. Below stretches a vast panorama of forests, rivers, and seas. Far beyond the horizon lies Olympus, invisible from here, yet always present in thought. As Zeus watches the landscape, another sign appears. A storm begins forming over the sea. At first it seems ordinary. Then something unusual happens. The clouds split into two great masses moving in opposite directions. Between them remains a corridor of clear sky. Sunlight pours through the opening. Brilliant, golden, temporary. Ancient observers loved such moments. Nature seemed to speak through symbols. The image feels almost too perfect. Two storm fronts, two opposing forces, a narrow path between them. Different storytellers offered different interpretations. Some saw a promise of victory. Others saw a warning about division. Perhaps both readings contained truth. Prometheus certainly treats the omen seriously. Later that evening, he studies the sky from a quiet ridge. Stars emerge above the mountains. The air feels cool and still. The memory of the divided storm remains vivid. And once again, he senses how fragile everything has become. The bridge from his vision, the cracking tree from Zeus's dream, the recurring eagle, the prophecy of Cronus. All these signs seem connected, threads within a larger pattern. Yet the final shape remains hidden. That uncertainty troubles him. Historians continue debating how ancient Greeks understood fate. Did destiny unfold exactly as foretold, or could choices alter its course? The myths themselves often refuse to decide, perhaps because life feels that way. Certain events seem inevitable in retrospect. Yet while living through them, uncertainty dominates every moment. As weeks become months, the war intensifies. Small clashes occur near sacred territories. Allied groups test one another's strength. Ancient shrines choose loyalties. Even rivers and forests seem divided by competing claims. The conflict spreads slowly, like roots beneath the earth, like cracks within marble, like thunder moving closer through distant clouds. The world itself begins responding. Earth tremors shake remote valleys. Unusual winds sweep across the sea. Sacred fires burn with strange colors. Some priests interpret these events as warnings. Others call them confirmations. No agreement emerges. The signs remain mysterious. And perhaps mystery is exactly what makes them powerful. One night, both mountains witness the same event. A comet appears above the world. Bright, silent, magnificent. Its tail stretches across the heavens like a river of light. People on Tartarus stop and stare. People on Olympus do the same. For several moments, enemies share a single experience. The same sky, the same wonder, the same uncertainty. Then the comet disappears beyond the horizon. The spell breaks. The divisions return. The preparations continue. And beneath the ancient stars, Mount Tartarus and Mount Olympus stand facing one another across the vastness of creation. Two mountains, two destinies, both trembling slightly now, as though even stone can sense the approach of a war that will soon shake heaven, earth, and the deepest foundations of the cosmos itself. The comet vanishes. Its fading light disappears beyond the edge of the world. Yet its memory remains. On Tartarus, the Titans speak of it in hushed voices. On Olympus, the younger gods wonder about its meaning. Some call it a warning. Others call it a promise. No one truly knows. And perhaps that uncertainty reflects the deeper truth of the age. The war has begun, but its outcome remains hidden. Even the stars refuse to reveal everything. You stand upon the slopes of Olympus, as dawn paints the sky in pale shades of gold and rose. The morning air feels cool. Clouds drift below the highest peaks. The scent of pine and wild herbs lingers in the breeze. For a moment the world appears peaceful. Yet Zeus cannot shake a growing feeling. Something essential remains unfinished. The Titans possess tremendous strength. Their numbers are greater. Their experience is greater. The conflict seems balanced in ways that trouble him. Victory feels distant. As the days pass, this feeling becomes stronger. Ancient Greek myths often place heroes at moments like this. Moments when success requires more than courage. Moments when the answer lies hidden beneath the surface. Quite literally beneath the surface. One evening, Zeus seeks counsel. The gathering takes place within a quiet grove, where sacred fires burn among ancient trees. The sky above glows with stars. Owls call from distant branches. The atmosphere feels thoughtful rather than tense. Prometheus is there. Métis is there. Several of the Olympians sit nearby. The discussion turns toward the earliest history of the cosmos, toward the age before Cronus, toward Gaia. toward forgotten wrongs. And gradually, a realization emerges. The imprisoned children, the Cyclopes, the hundred-handed ones, still confined, still hidden, still waiting. The memory strikes Zeus with unexpected force. How could such powerful beings remain forgotten for so long? Then again, perhaps forgotten wounds are often the most dangerous. The Greeks understood this pattern. Old injustices do not disappear simply because people stop discussing them. They linger, quietly, patiently, waiting for the moment when memory returns. Prometheus speaks carefully. He reminds the gathering that these prisoners suffered under Cronus, then continued suffering under Cronus. Generations have passed. Empires have risen. Empires have changed. Yet the prison remains. The implication becomes impossible to ignore. Perhaps the key to victory lies not in creating new power. Perhaps it lies in correcting an ancient wrong. The idea settles over the gathering like a divine sign. No thunder rolls. No prophecy speaks. Yet everyone senses its importance. Zeus especially. Because the pattern feels familiar. His own life began through liberation from fear. Perhaps the future depends upon liberating others. That night, Zeus experiences a dream. The dream unfolds beneath a starless sky. He stands before an enormous gate. Its surface is black stone, ancient, weathered, covered with strange symbols. From beyond the gate comes a sound. Not words, not voices. The sound of countless hands striking stone, slowly, patiently, endlessly. Then a crack appears in the gate. Light begins shining through. Bright silver light. The dream ends. Zeus awakens before dawn. The image remains vivid. The gate, the hands, the light, another symbol, another mystery. Yet this one feels easier to understand. The path forward is becoming clear. Soon afterward, preparations begin. The destination lies far below the familiar world, far below forests, far below rivers, far below the roots of mountains themselves. Tartarus, even speaking the name carries weight. Ancient Greeks imagined Tartarus as one of the deepest regions of existence, a place older than many gods, a realm of profound darkness, a place where forgotten things remained hidden. Different traditions described it differently. Some imagined vast caverns. Others envisioned endless abysses. Historians continue debating how ancient audiences visualized it. Yet all versions share one quality: distance. Tartarus feels impossibly far away. A place removed from ordinary experience, a place where sunlight never reaches. And that is where Zeus must go. You accompany him on the journey. The descent begins through mountain caves known only to ancient powers. Cool air drifts from hidden passages. Water echoes through darkness. The scent of damp stone surrounds you. Torchlight flickers against rough walls. The farther you travel, the quieter the world becomes. Birdsong disappears. Wind disappears. Even the memory of daylight begins to fade. The atmosphere feels ancient beyond measure, as though these passages existed before the stars themselves. Ancient myths often use such descents symbolically. To travel downward was to confront what had been buried, forgotten, ignored. The journey itself becomes part of the lesson. Zeus is not merely seeking allies. He is confronting the unresolved past. Hours pass, perhaps days. Time becomes difficult to measure. The darkness deepens. The air grows colder. Strange echoes move through distant tunnels. Then another sign appears, a faint trembling beneath the stone. At first, it seems like an earthquake. Then it comes again, rhythmic, steady, almost deliberate. The sound from the dream, hands striking stone. The imprisoned beings remain there, waiting, still waiting. The realization sends a chill through the darkness. For countless ages, they have endured confinement. Longer than most gods can imagine, longer than entire eras of the cosmos, and yet they survive. The Greeks admired endurance profoundly, not passive endurance, the kind that preserves strength through suffering, the kind that refuses to surrender identity. The Cyclopes and hundred-handed ones embody that principle. Eventually, the tunnels open into a vast chamber. The sight steals your breath. Darkness stretches in every direction. Towering walls disappear into shadow. Ancient rivers flow through the depths like black ribbons. Strange lights flicker far away. Blue, silver, pale green. The place feels less like a cave and more like another world. A hidden world beneath creation. And there, beyond colossal gates, the prisoners remain. The gates themselves are enormous, forged from materials no mortal smith could shape. Their surfaces bear marks left by ages beyond counting. The dream returns immediately to Zeus's mind. The gate, the crack, the light. Nothing feels accidental. Ancient audiences would have recognized the moment. Prophecy is approaching fulfillment, not through magic, through action. Zeus steps forward. Torchlight dances across the metal. The silence grows deeper. Then a voice echoes from beyond the barrier. Deep, ancient, powerful. The first voice heard from the prison in ages. The sound rolls through the darkness like distant thunder. No hostility fills it. Only caution. Only curiosity. Only the weary awareness of beings long forgotten. For a moment, nobody speaks. The weight of history presses upon the chamber. Uranos imprisoned them. Cronus abandoned them. The ages passed, and now another ruler stands before them. Will he prove different? The question hangs in the darkness, unanswered, important. The Greeks often understood that trust cannot be demanded. It must be earned. Zeus knows this. The future king of Olympus does not approach as a conqueror. He approaches as someone seeking to correct an ancient wrong. And somewhere deep within the shadows of Tartarus, the first stirrings of hope begin moving through prisoners who had almost forgotten what hope felt like. The gates of Tartarus do not open easily. They were never meant to. Ancient forces shaped them in the earliest age of creation, when fear itself still had a physical form. Even now they seem to resist change as though the world itself hesitates at what Zeus is about to do. You stand beside him in the vast chamber of darkness. The air is heavy, still, almost unbearable. The faint trembling beneath the stone continues, like distant hands striking metal in a rhythm that never ends. Behind the gates, the Cyclopes and hundred-handed ones remain unseen, but not unfelt. Zeus steps forward. The torchlight in his hand flickers against blackened stone. Métis' guidance lingers in his thoughts. Prometheus's warning echoes within him. Wisdom alone is not enough. Strength alone is not enough. Timing is everything. And now, the moment has arrived. Zeus speaks, not loudly, not with command, but with clarity that carries through the depths. He does not promise domination. He does not demand obedience. He offers release. He offers change. For a long moment, nothing happens. Even the darkness seems to listen. Then the gates shift, not violently, not suddenly, but as though something ancient within them remembers it was never meant to remain closed forever. A crack appears, then another. Light begins to leak through. Not sunlight, not fire, something older, something divine. The sound that follows is overwhelming. The Cyclopes react first. Their voices rise like thunder breaking across mountains. Brontes, Steropes, Argus, names that echo through creation itself. The hundred-handed ones follow. Codus, Briareus, Gyges. Their many voices overlap, filling the chamber with a sound like storms multiplied across infinity. Chains fall, stone fractures. The prison that held them since the age of Uranos finally breaks apart. Ancient myths describe this moment with awe, not simply liberation. Rebirth, because something happens when beings are freed after endless confinement. They do not return to what they were. They become something else entirely. The Cyclops step forward first, massive figures, one-eyed, radiant in their strange elemental way. Their bodies seem shaped by fire and stone simultaneously. Their presence fills the chamber like living storms contained in form. The hundred-handed ones follow, terrifying in scale, yet not monstrous in intent. Their many arms move slowly at first, as if remembering motion itself. Zeus watches them carefully. He understands the danger. He also understands the necessity. Ancient audiences often felt both awe and unease in this moment. Freedom and risk are inseparable. The Cyclopes speak first. Their voices carry ancient memory. They remember the sky before Cronus. They remember the chains of Uranos. They remember time measured only by suffering. And now they ask a question that defines the moment. Why should they fight for Zeus? The question is not hostile. It is honest. Zeus answers carefully. He does not speak of destiny. He does not invoke prophecy. He speaks of justice, of correction, of restoring balance to a world shaped by fear and imprisonment. His words are simple, but they carry weight. Métis stands beside him silent. Prometheus watches from the shadows, measuring every reaction. The Cyclopes remain still for a long time. Then they turn toward one another. Ancient stories vary here. Some say they debated among themselves. Others suggest they already understood the answer. But all versions agree on one thing. They choose to act, not out of obligation, but recognition. A wrong has endured too long. A debt remains unpaid. And so the Cyclopes step forward into alliance. But they do not come empty-handed. They are smiths, forgers, beings of elemental craft, older than mortal understanding. And they carry with them knowledge that has waited since the beginning of time. Deep within the volcanic chambers of Tartarus, they begin to work. The sound of hammer on anvil echoes through the darkness. At first it feels chaotic, then rhythmic, then almost musical. You move with Zeus through these hidden forges. Fire appears where none should exist. Blue flames rise without fuel. Molten metal flows like rivers of light. The Cyclops shape weapons not merely of war, but of cosmic significance. First comes the thunderbolt, not a simple weapon, a manifestation of storm itself. When it is completed, the air changes. Pressure builds in unseen layers. Even silence feels charged. Then comes the trident, forged for Poseidon, a tool that will command the seas. The waters of the world seem to respond even before it is finished. And finally, the helm of invisibility, forged for Hades, a gift of concealment, a symbol of unseen power. Each creation carries a warning. Power shapes its wielder, never the other way around. Ancient audiences understood this deeply. Every gift from the gods is also a test. When the forging is complete, the chamber falls quiet. The Cyclops stand in silence, as though listening to the consequences forming beyond their tools. Then they turn to Zeus. Their alliance is not spoken as oath. It is understood through presence. The war is no longer distant. It has gained teeth. Meanwhile, the hundred-handed ones move differently. Where the Cyclopes create, they destroy. Not indiscriminately, but purposefully. They train. They practice. They learn the shape of motion after ages of stillness. Their many arms strike stone pillars with controlled force. They test their strength. They refine coordination. The sound echoes through Tartarus like rolling thunder beneath the earth. Zeus watches both groups carefully. He understands now what Prometheus meant. This is not merely recruitment. It is transformation. He is not gathering allies. He is awakening forces the world has forgotten how to contain. Outside the depths, the world begins to react. On Othrys, Cronus feels something shift. Not a vision, not a clear prophecy. A sensation, like pressure changing beneath reality itself. He does not understand it yet. But fear stirs again. On Olympus, the air feels different. Storms gather more quickly. Lightning flickers in distant clouds without rain. Poseidon speaks of restless seas. Hera senses growing tension in fate itself. And Métis remains watchful, always watchful, because wisdom recognizes patterns before power does. Ancient traditions often describe this stage of myth as a turning point. Not yet war, but no longer peace. A threshold, a narrowing path, one that cannot easily be reversed. Zeus ascends from Tartarus with new allies behind him. The Cyclopes, the hundred-handed ones, not as prisoners anymore, but as forces reborn. As he emerges into the upper world, the light feels different. Sharper, more fragile, as though even daylight knows it is no longer unchallenged. Far away, thunder rolls across the horizon. No storm is visible, yet the sound is real. The world is listening, and somewhere between sky and earth, between memory and fate, the final preparations for war have already begun. The world above Tartarus feels almost unreal after what you have witnessed below. Light returns slowly, first as a pale glow beyond the stone corridors, then as the warmth of distant daylight filtering through broken passages, then finally as full morning spilling across the mountains of creation. Zeus stands at the threshold between worlds. Behind him, the echoes of forging still linger. Hammer on metal, fire without fuel, voices that once knew only imprisonment, now learning the shape of freedom. The Cyclops remain behind for a time, continuing their work in hidden chambers. But the hundred-handed ones follow, and their arrival changes everything. You turn as they emerge into the open world. Even under sunlight, they feel immense, not simply in size, but in presence. Each movement carries weight. Each step seems to shift the air itself. Ancient Greek imagination struggled to fully define them. Not monsters, not gods in the familiar sense. Something older, something closer to raw force made conscious. Cronus, Briareus, Gyges. They stand together, their many arms slowly adjusting to open sky, as if the heavens themselves feel too vast after so long in darkness. For countless ages they knew only confinement, stone walls, endless echo, the rhythm of their own breath. Now they feel wind, sunlight, distance. The world expands around them like a forgotten memory returning. Zeus watches carefully. He knows what they are capable of. So do they. And so does the world in some instinctive way that precedes understanding. The Greeks often imagined the 100-handed ones as embodiments of overwhelming natural force. Earthquakes that split mountains, storm surges that reshape coastlines, violence not born of anger but of scale, too large for ordinary limits, too vast for ordinary control. That is why their loyalty matters, and why it must be earned. Prometheus approaches first. He does not flinch. He rarely does. He speaks to them not as weapons of war, but as beings who have endured something no one else can truly comprehend. Time without freedom, existence without choice. His words are careful, measured, human in a way even titans sometimes fail to be. Zeus listens. Métis observes. The 100-handed ones remain silent for a long time. Then Briareus steps forward. The ground trembles slightly beneath his weight. His many arms settle slowly like waves finding shore. He speaks. His voice is deep, layered, as though several echoes speak at once. They remember everything. The chains, the darkness, the silence that stretched beyond measure. They also remember Gaia's grief and Zeus's decision to open the gates. But memory alone is not enough to build trust. They ask what comes next, not in words of politics, but in something simpler. What will freedom mean? The question hangs in the air. No one answers immediately, because the truth is uncertain. Ancient myths often pause here, because even gods hesitate when confronting consequences. Zeus steps forward. He does not promise glory. He does not promise victory. He speaks instead of direction, of an end to endless imprisonment, of a world no longer ruled by fear alone, of a future that is not yet written. His voice carries something new now, not authority, but conviction shaped by experience. The 100-handed ones listen, and slowly something shifts within them. Not full trust, not yet, but recognition. They understand suffering. They understand injustice. And they understand what it means when someone finally opens a locked world. So they agree, not as servants, not as tools, but as allies. The air seems to change the moment the agreement forms. Clouds gather in the distance, not storm clouds exactly. Something more ambiguous, something waiting. On Tartarus, Cronus feels it again, stronger this time. A disturbance in the fabric of order, not physical, not visible, but undeniable. He calls his council. The Titan hall fills with voices. Some demand immediate action. Others counsel patience. A few suggest negotiation. But fear once awakened rarely listens to reason. And Cronus has lived too long with fear as companion. He begins preparing for war in earnest. Meanwhile, Zeus gathers his forces upon Olympus. The Cyclopes continue forging. The thunderbolt is refined. Its presence becomes more defined with each strike of the hammer. Lightning responds even when the weapon is still incomplete. Poseidon trains with growing intensity, sensing the pull of the trident that will soon be his. Hades speaks little, but the helm of invisibility already seems to alter the perception of space around him. And the 100-handed ones begin training alongside the Olympians. Their movements reshape the ground beneath them. Even practice becomes dangerous. Even discipline feels like controlled catastrophe. Yet there is structure now, purpose, direction. Ancient storytellers often emphasize this moment, not the beginning of war, but the building of inevitability. Every alliance formed now tightens the path ahead. Every decision reduces the possibility of turning back. One evening, Zeus stands alone at the edge of Olympus. You stand with him. Below stretches a world suspended between two powers. Above, stars begin to appear. The wind is strong here. carrying the scent of distant rain. He does not speak immediately. Instead, he watches the horizon. Then quietly he asks a question no one can fully answer. What does victory cost? There is no reply, only silence. And somewhere within that silence, the answer already exists. It simply has not yet revealed its shape. Far away in the halls of Tartarus, Cronus looks at the same sky. And for a brief moment, both sides see the same stars, the same distance, the same unknown future pressing toward them. The war is not happening yet, but it is no longer avoidable. It is simply waiting for its first true moment. And when that moment arrives, the world will remember it, not as a beginning, but as a breaking. War in the world of gods does not begin with a single blow. It begins with waiting, with preparation, with the slow tightening of inevitability across every corner of existence. You stand now in a landscape that no longer feels entirely stable. The skies above Olympus shift more often. Storms form and dissolve without warning. The winds carry distant echoes that sound almost like voices, though no speaker is seen. Across the cosmos, everything feels slightly unsettled, as if reality itself is holding its breath. The first clashes are small, almost unworthy of being called battles. A confrontation near a sacred river, a disputed boundary in a mountain valley, a brief exchange of force between scouts and guardians. Yet, even these minor encounters change everything. Because once blood is spilled, however divine, the memory of peace begins to fade. The Greeks understood this truth deeply. A war is not defined only by its greatest battles. It is defined by the way it changes the world before and after them. On Tartarus, Cronus watches reports arrive daily. Messengers return with accounts of rising resistance, of strange new forces, of weapons unlike anything seen in earlier ages. Thunder that obeys a single hand, seas that respond to command, invisible forces moving through battle lines like unseen winds. Each report tightens something within him. Fear long suppressed begins to harden into determination. Not the calm determination of wisdom, but the rigid determination of someone who believes retreat is no longer possible. You see him in moments of silence, standing alone within vast halls. The weight of prophecy feels heavier now, no longer distant, no longer abstract, but approaching. On Olympus, the mood is different, not lighter, but more focused, more aligned. The Olympians are no longer a scattered group of refugees or hidden heirs. They have become something closer to an organized force, a unity formed through shared purpose. Yet even unity carries strain. Demeter worries about the impact of conflict on the natural world. Hestia remains focused on preserving sanctuaries of stability. Hera pushes for strategic clarity and long-term structure. Poseidon grows increasingly restless, eager for direct confrontation. Hades remains quiet, observing patterns others overlook. And Zeus carries the weight of leadership that continues to grow heavier with each passing day. Ancient myths often emphasize this hidden burden. Leadership is not only power, it is responsibility multiplied by consequence. One decision affects countless futures. The 100-handed ones train relentlessly. Their movements reshape terrain. Practice grounds must constantly be rebuilt. Even controlled strength produces unintended destruction. Yet they learn quickly. Their discipline grows. Their coordination improves. And slowly something unexpected begins to form. A kind of unity between chaos and order. The Cyclopes, meanwhile, complete their greatest work. The thunderbolt is finished. It is not simply a weapon. It feels like condensed storm, like the essence of lightning bound into form. When Zeus holds it for the first time, the air reacts. Clouds shift above distant horizons. The wind changes direction. Even silence feels electrically charged. The Greeks often used weapons in myth as symbols rather than tools. The thunderbolt is not merely destructive. It represents judgment, precision, the moment when unseen tension becomes visible force. Elsewhere, Poseidon receives his trident. When he touches it, water in nearby streams ripples without wind, as if the sea recognizes its future master. And Hades receives the helm of invisibility. When placed upon his head, he vanishes from perception entirely. Not just sight, but presence itself, as if existence briefly forgets him. Each gift carries wonder and warning, because power in Greek mythology always comes with transformation. The wielder is never the same afterward. The war enters its long phase, not yet climactic, not yet decisive, but expanding, spreading across landscapes like weather systems colliding. Titan forces and Olympian forces begin meeting more frequently. Skirmishes become patterns. Patterns become strategy. Strategy becomes necessity. And necessity becomes exhaustion. You walk through a battlefield after one such encounter. The ground is fractured. Stones split by impact beyond human understanding. Trees bent at impossible angles. The air still carries echoes of divine force. Yet no victor is fully clear. Only change. Always change. Prometheus observes this stage of the war with increasing concern. He sees what others do not. That neither side fully understands what they are becoming. Zeus is becoming something beyond exile and hidden child. Cronus is becoming something beyond king and protector of order. Both are transforming under pressure. Both are being reshaped by conflict. One evening, Prometheus visits a quiet ridge overlooking a valley scarred by recent battle. The wind is cold here, carrying ash and salt from distant seas. He speaks to Zeus with unusual directness. The war, he says, is no longer about justice alone. It is becoming about identity, who they will be when it ends, and whether anything recognizable will remain. Zeus listens in silence. The weight of that idea settles deeply, because it suggests something more unsettling than defeat. It suggests change that cannot be reversed. Meanwhile, on Tartarus, Cronus begins experiencing dreams more frequently. In them, he is no longer king, no longer ruler of the cosmos. He stands in darkness, surrounded by silence, and hears distant voices calling his name. Sometimes they are his children. Sometimes they are Uranos. Sometimes they are simply echoes of his own fear. He wakes unsettled, increasingly unsure, yet he does not stop. Because stopping now would mean accepting the prophecy, and acceptance for him feels like surrender. So the war continues, long, wearisome, expanding, not a single clash of destiny, but a slow unraveling of an old order. Across the cosmos, both sides grow stronger. Both sides grow more exhausted. Both sides begin to understand in ways they cannot fully admit that what is being decided is not only who will rule, but what kind of world will follow. And somewhere between thunder and silence, between Olympus and Tartarus, between memory and fate, the war keeps moving forward. Patient, relentless, unfinished, not every force in the cosmos chooses the path of war. Even now, even as conflict spreads across mountains and seas, there remain powers that hesitate. Observe, withdraw, reflect. You find yourself beside the endless waters of Oceanus, the great river believed by ancient Greeks to encircle the entire world. Its surface stretches farther than sight can follow. It moves without beginning or end, always flowing, always returning. Oceanus stands upon a rocky shore, watching the water in silence. He does not wear the urgency of battle. He does not carry the intensity of allegiance. Instead, he feels like distance itself made visible. The world moves through him, but he does not fully move with it. Ancient storytellers often portrayed Oceanus this way, not as weak, not as passive, but as separate. A boundary between participation and observation. And in this war, such separation becomes increasingly rare. News reaches him slowly. Reports of skirmishes, of shifting alliances, of growing instability among Titans and Olympians alike. Yet, Oceanus does not immediately choose a side. His hesitation is not ignorance. It is contemplation. The Greeks often understood that distance can create clarity. When you are not inside the storm, you can see its shape more clearly. Yet distance also creates isolation, and isolation carries its own burden. Far from Oceanus, in another sacred domain, Themis also watches. Where Oceanus embodies boundary, Themis embodies order. Not the order of force, but the order of balance, of justice that seeks harmony rather than domination. You meet her in a quiet sanctuary where stone pillars rise among olive trees. The air is still, almost reverent. Light filters through branches in soft patterns across marble floors. Themis stands at the center of the sanctuary listening, not to words, but to patterns beneath words, to consequences unfolding before they fully arrive. She understands something many others are only beginning to sense. This war is not simply about who rules. It is about whether order itself will survive transformation. Cronus believes he preserves order through control. Zeus believes order must be renewed through change. Both claim necessity. Both fear collapse. Themis sees the tension between them as something deeper than politics. It is a philosophical fracture within creation itself. Ancient interpretations of her role often emphasize this quality. She does not choose sides easily, because she understands that every side carries consequences. Instead, she watches for imbalance, for tipping points, for the moment when correction becomes unavoidable. Meanwhile, Prometheus moves between these quiet powers and the rising storm of conflict. He visits Oceanus. He visits sanctuaries of Themis. He speaks with lesser spirits who still remember older harmonies. He listens to everything, and what he hears deepens his concern. Many do not want war. Not truly. Even among Titans aligned with Cronus, there is unease. Even among Olympians, there is doubt. Yet, momentum is growing stronger than hesitation. The Greeks often recognize this phenomenon in human affairs. A conflict can continue even when many participants wish it would stop, because stopping requires more courage than continuing. One evening, Prometheus and Zeus meet again beside a cliff overlooking a restless sea. Clouds gather far on the horizon. The wind carries the scent of approaching rain. Below, waves strike rocks with steady force. Prometheus speaks carefully. He reminds Zeus that victory alone will not resolve the deeper imbalance. Something fundamental in the cosmos has shifted, and after the war ends, that shift will still remain. Zeus listens. Long silence follows. Then he asks a question that reveals how deeply he is beginning to think beyond battle. What comes after victory? Prometheus does not answer immediately, because the answer is uncertain. Ancient myths rarely provide clarity at this stage. They dwell in tension, in unresolved possibility, in the space between decisions and consequences. Elsewhere on Tartarus, Cronus faces similar unease. His advisors report growing instability. Even loyal Titans begin questioning the cost of continued war. The king senses something he cannot fully articulate. The world is no longer responding as it once did. Reality itself feels less predictable, less obedient. Fear deepens. Not only fear of Zeus, but fear of loss of control over the structure of existence itself. And so he pushes forward, because retreat feels impossible, because hesitation feels dangerous, because prophecy still echoes in his mind like a wound that refuses to close. Themis in her sanctuary experiences a vision. It is not loud, not dramatic, but deeply unsettling. She sees a scale, perfectly balanced. Then, a single drop of light falls upon one side. The scale tilts, slowly, irreversibly. She awakens with understanding. The balance of the cosmos is approaching a tipping point, not through sudden catastrophe, but through accumulated weight. Every choice, every alliance, every act of fear or hope, adding to one side or the other. Oceanus, too, senses change in his waters. The great river that encircles creation flows differently now. Not faster, not slower, but unevenly, as though responding to pressures beyond sight. Even nature itself feels divided. As the war continues, these quiet powers remain observers. But observation is not neutrality. It is awareness, and awareness brings responsibility. Yet they still hesitate, because once a side is chosen, everything changes, and some changes cannot be undone. Across the cosmos, thunder gathers more frequently, not always striking, but always present. A reminder, a warning, a breath held before release. Zeus returns to Olympus that night under a sky filled with restless stars. He does not speak of victory. He does not speak of defeat. Instead, he carries something heavier, understanding that even success will not end what has begun, only transform it. And somewhere in the distance, beyond mountains and memory, the war continues to shape itself toward a moment no one can yet see clearly, but everyone can already feel. The world grows quieter again, not peaceful, not safe, just quieter in the way a storm becomes quiet before it breaks. You stand beneath a sky that feels unusually heavy. Clouds gather without forming storms. Light fades without explanation. Even the wind seems uncertain of its direction. Across the cosmos, both Titans and Olympians feel it at the same time. Something is coming. Something irreversible. On Tartarus, Cronus wakes before dawn. He does not remember falling asleep. That alone unsettles him. The halls around him are still. Torches burn low in bronze holders. Shadows stretch across ancient stone. For a moment he simply listens, and what he hears is not sound. It is absence, a gap in the fabric of certainty. Ancient Greek storytellers often use silence as a sign of divine attention, not comfort. Attention, as though the world itself is holding still to witness what happens next. Cronus rises, walks, steps onto a balcony overlooking the darkened world. The sea below reflects no moonlight tonight, only shifting darkness. Then without warning the sky changes. You see it from both sides of the conflict, from Olympus and Tartarus alike. A single phenomenon spreads across the heavens. Not thunder, not lightning, not storm, something older. A celestial distortion, as if the sky itself is being drawn inward. Stars appear to move out of alignment. Constellations shift in ways no one has ever recorded. The Greeks would have called it an omen beyond naming. Some traditions describe it as a tear in the sky, others as the eye of fate opening briefly. Historians continue to debate whether such descriptions came from actual ancient observations or symbolic storytelling. But within the myth, the meaning is clear. Reality is no longer stable. On Olympus, Zeus steps outside as the phenomenon unfolds. Metis stands beside him. Prometheus arrives moments later. Even Poseidon and Hera fall silent. Every divine presence senses the same thing. This is not a battle signal. It is something deeper. A final declaration from forces older than both Titans and Olympians. The sky remains distorted for several heartbeats. Then slowly, it begins to settle. But it does not return to what it was. Something has changed permanently. Zeus speaks quietly, not as command, not as king, but as recognition. The moment is near. On Tartarus, Cronus receives the same realization. His council gathers urgently. Some interpret the omen as confirmation of Titan supremacy. Others see warning of collapse. No interpretation satisfies everyone, because the omen does not speak clearly. It simply reveals pressure building beyond comprehension. Cronus remembers the prophecy again. A sun will overthrow you. And for the first time, he no longer sees it as distant possibility. He sees it as approaching reality. The war is no longer a series of conflicts. It is narrowing, compressing, moving toward a single convergence. Across the world, smaller signs begin aligning. Sacred fires burn in synchronized irregularity. Rivers flow with unusual currents. Animals behave differently. Eagles circle higher than usual. Some flee coastlines entirely. The natural world itself seems to anticipate impact. Prometheus observes all of this from a high ridge. He does not speak. He simply watches the pattern complete itself. The vision he once had begins to feel less symbolic. The broken bridge, the diverging paths, the collapse into many futures. Now it feels like those futures are merging back toward one point. Not clarity, concentration. Zeus meets his siblings that night. The atmosphere is different now, heavier, final in a way that cannot be reversed. No one speaks of strategy at first. Instead, they stand together in silence. Hestia closes her eyes. Demeter breathes slowly. Hera watches the horizon. Poseidon grips his weapon unconsciously. Hades remains still as though already seeing what lies beyond the moment. Then Zeus speaks. The war will end soon, not because it is ready, but because it has reached its limit. Ancient myths often frame such moments as inevitability, not because choice disappears, but because every remaining choice leads to the same narrowing path. Somewhere between sky and earth, between old order and new possibility, the final stage of the Titan War begins forming. On Tartarus, Cronus prepares. On Olympus, Zeus prepares. Both sides understand now that waiting longer only increases uncertainty. And uncertainty is no longer tolerable. The final omen fades from the sky, but it leaves something behind, a sense of fracture, like glass under pressure, like stone about to break. And in that fragile space between moments, the cosmos holds its breath one last time. Because everything that follows will no longer be warning. It will be action. The sky does not thunder at first. It simply changes, as though reality itself forgets how to remain still. You stand at the edge of Olympus as the final calm dissolves into something larger than storm. Clouds gather in layers no mortal eye could comprehend. Light fractures through them in pale, broken shafts. The wind rises, then falls, then rises again, as if the world cannot decide how to breathe. And then the war begins, not with announcement, not with ceremony, but with motion. A single shift in the balance of forces that cannot be undone. On Tartarus, Cronus descends from his throne. His crown catches the dim light of gathering storm clouds. His expression is no longer hesitation. It is resolve, shaped by fear that has finally become action. Behind him, the Titans assemble. Oceanus remains distant, watching like a river that refuses to choose a bank. Hyperion steps forward with blazing authority. Cronus and Creus stand firm, their loyalty hardened into structure. Others follow, some willingly, some with hesitation they can no longer voice. They move as an empire that still believes in its necessity. On Olympus, Zeus stands among his siblings. The thunderbolt rests in his hand, not yet unleashed. Beside him, Poseidon feels the pull of the sea itself responding to his presence. Hera stands steady, gaze sharp as judgment. Hades watches quietly, already half-merged with the unseen world. He will one day rule. Hestia anchors them all with calm presence. Demeter carries the memory of life worth protecting. And behind them all, Prometheus and Métis observe with different kinds of understanding. One sees consequence, the other sees structure. Neither can stop what is now in motion. The first impact comes across the plains between the mountains. Not visible at first, only felt. The ground trembles as two divine forces meet. Air compresses, light bends, the sky itself seems to react. Then sound arrives, a collision that cannot be contained by normal meaning of thunder. It is as if storms, earthquakes, and collapsing worlds have all chosen the same moment to exist. You move through the battlefield not as observer, but as presence within it. The war is no longer distant. It surrounds everything. Cyclopean forges echo far behind Olympus, still resonating with unfinished power. The hundred-handed ones enter the field like living catastrophes of controlled motion. Each movement reshapes terrain. Each strike alters geography. Opposing them, Titan forces respond with ancient strength honed across ages. Rivers shift course under divine pressure. Mountains fracture at their edges. Seas rise unnaturally against coastlines. And above it all, Zeus rises into the sky. The thunderbolt ignites, not as fire, but as pure release. A bolt of concentrated cosmic force splits the air and strikes downward into Titan ranks. For a moment, everything pauses. Even the war itself seems to understand the magnitude of what has occurred. Then reality resumes. Cronus responds. Power meets power. Order meets rebellion. Father meets son. The clash is not simply physical. It is generational, symbolic, existential. The Greeks understood this deeply. Titanomachy is not just war between beings. It is war between eras, between ways of existing, between what was and what must become. On the battlefield, time feels unstable. Moments stretch, collapse, repeat. Zeus calls storms that were never part of natural weather. Poseidon raises waves where no sea should exist. Hades opens passages into unseen depths that swallow light itself. The Cyclops forge new bursts of lightning mid-conflict, as though creation itself continues even during destruction. The hundred-handed ones strike in overwhelming waves of motion that leave no space for counterattack. Yet the Titans endure. Hyperion unleashes radiant force that blots out visibility across entire regions of the sky. Cronus anchors strategic resistance through calculated movements that resist chaos. Creus holds defensive lines that refuse to break under pressure. The battle expands beyond geography. It becomes atmosphere. It becomes environment. It becomes the condition of the world itself. On Tartarus, Cronus finally meets Zeus directly. The air between them distorts. For a moment, everything else fades. No armies, no mountains, no sky. Only the two of them, father and son, king and challenger, prophecy made visible. Cronus speaks first. His voice carries exhaustion layered beneath authority. He sees the cycle repeating. He sees himself becoming what he once overthrew. And yet he cannot stop. Zeus responds not with hatred, but with certainty. The world cannot remain bound by fear. The words do not end the conflict. They define it. The thunderbolt rises, The Titan power responds, and the sky breaks. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but in the way ancient myths describe reality unraveling at its seams. Light fractures across the heavens. Storms converge from impossible directions. The earth beneath the battlefield splits into layered depths. Mountains shift, as if uncertain of their own position. The universe itself feels compressed between opposing forces. And still the battle continues, because neither side can retreat now. To stop would mean admitting everything that came before was unnecessary. And gods like mortals rarely accept that easily. As the war reaches its peak intensity, a realization spreads quietly among the immortals. This is no longer about victory. It is about what remains after victory, or whether anything will remain at all. And in that realization, the sky continues to break open wider than it has ever been before. The sky no longer resembles itself. What once was a dome of order has become a fractured expanse of shifting light and pressure. Clouds move in directions that should not exist. Storms collide without rain. Thunder echoes from places where no storm is visible. And in the center of it all, the war reaches its turning point. You stand amid the final convergence between Olympus and Tartarus. The ground beneath you is no longer stable earth, but a living threshold between creation and collapse. Every step feels uncertain, as if reality might shift beneath your weight at any moment. Above, Zeus and Cronus face each other once more. No armies remain between them. No distance, only the last space where fate has not yet fully decided itself. Cronus looks different now, not weaker, not diminished, but exposed, as if the weight of ages has finally stripped away the illusion of permanence. The crown upon his head still shines, but dimly, as though it has begun to forget its own meaning. In his eyes, something ancient struggles: fear, memory, regret, and beneath it all the echo of a prophecy he never escaped. Zeus stands opposite him. The thunderbolt is no longer just held. It is present in the air itself. Every breath feels charged. Every silence feels unstable. Ancient Greek storytellers often framed this confrontation not as a simple duel, but as the culmination of an entire cosmic cycle. A son confronting the system that created him. A father confronting the future he tried to prevent. Neither fully villain, neither fully hero. Only inevitability moving toward resolution. Cronus speaks first. His voice carries the weight of everything that has come before. He does not ask for mercy. He does not offer surrender. He speaks instead of understanding, of cycles, of fear that shaped his choices long before he realized it. For a brief moment, the war feels suspended. Even the storm seems to listen. Zeus does not interrupt. He listens. This too is important, because understanding the enemy is not weakness. It is recognition of truth. Cronus remembers Oranos. He remembers the sickle. He remembers the moment he believed he was breaking a cycle rather than continuing it. And now he sees clearly what he could not see then. He has become the very pattern he once opposed. Silence follows. Long, heavy, almost unbearable. Then Cronus moves first, not with hesitation, but with finality. The battle resumes. But now it is different. No longer chaos between armies. It becomes singular, focused, existential. Zeus unleashes the thunderbolt. The sky responds instantly, as though the weapon has always been part of it, and is only now remembering its purpose. Lightning descends in impossible arcs. The ground fractures beneath divine impact. Cronus counters with ancient force drawn from the oldest layers of creation. The collision bends space itself. For a moment, visibility disappears entirely. Only sound remains. Then even sound breaks apart. What follows is not easily described. Ancient texts often retreat into metaphor here, because language fails to contain the event. Mountains shake not as objects, but as ideas of mountains losing stability. Rivers reverse direction. The air becomes dense with competing forces of creation and destruction. And at the center of it all, Zeus strikes again. This time something changes. Not in Zeus, not in Cronus, but in the structure of the world itself. The thunderbolt connects fully, not as weapon, but as resolution. Cronus staggers. For the first time, the Titan King loses balance, not physical alone, but existential, as if the certainty that held him together begins to unravel. You see it in his expression, not rage, not defiance, but recognition. The cycle has completed itself. The prophecy is no longer approaching. It has arrived. Cronus falls. The impact is not immediate destruction. It is transition. He is pulled downward through collapsing layers of battlefield and sky, as though reality itself is releasing its grip on him. For a moment, Zeus reaches forward, not to strike, but to witness. A final exchange between father and son, suspended between destruction and memory. Cronus does not speak further. He simply falls. And in that falling, something ancient within creation releases its hold. The Titan resistance breaks, not all at once, but inevitably. Across Othrys forces begin to withdraw. Hyperion's radiance dims under the overwhelming shift. Coeus and Creus retreat into defensive collapse. Even the strongest Titan formations lose cohesion as the central axis of their world disappears. Cronus has fallen, and with him, the certainty of the old order. Zeus does not celebrate. Not yet, because victory has not fully arrived. Only the collapse of opposition. Above the battlefield, storm clouds begin to disperse unevenly, as though unsure what shape the sky should take now. Silence spreads slowly across the cosmos. Not peaceful silence. Rearranging silence. The kind that follows after something fundamental has changed. Far below, in the fractured remnants of Othrys, the remaining Titans begin to realize what has occurred. The age of Cronus is over. The prophecy has completed its path, and the cosmos finally begins to move towards something entirely new. Zeus stands alone at the center of the broken sky. The thunderbolt dims in his hand. The war is not fully over, but the outcome has already begun to settle into reality, and somewhere deep within the shifting silence of the universe, the next age begins to form in its earliest, quietest shape. Silence does not mean peace. Not here, not yet. The battlefield has fallen still, but the stillness feels heavy, as though the world is holding something too large to release all at once. You stand among the ruins of what was once the boundary between Olympus and Othrys. Now there is no boundary, only aftermath. The sky slowly repairs itself in uneven fragments. Storm clouds drift apart like torn fabric. Light returns in hesitant waves, as if uncertain whether it is welcome. Zeus remains at the center of it all. The thunderbolt no longer burns with active force. It rests in his hand like a memory of what just occurred. Around him, the Olympians gather in quiet disbelief. Poseidon looks toward the fractured horizon, where seas still churn from unnatural disturbance. Hera watches the distant collapse of Titan formations with measured breath. Hades stands apart already, sensing the deeper shift occurring beneath visible reality. Hestia remains steady, as though anchoring the moment, so it does not dissolve into chaos. Demeter looks toward the earth itself, which is slowly returning to stability after being shaped and reshaped by divine conflict. And above them all, the consequences of victory begin to settle. The Titans are not all gone, but they are no longer unified. What remains of their forces withdraws into broken formations. Some flee, some surrender, some simply stop resisting as though the effort of continuing has become impossible. The war does not end with annihilation. It ends with collapse, and then with containment. The hundred-handed ones move first, not in destruction now, but in enforcement. Their immense presence becomes the instrument through which order is re-established after chaos. They do not strike with rage. They restrain with inevitability. Even the Titans who once commanded the cosmos find themselves unable to resist the overwhelming force of their many-handed captors. One by one they are bound, not erased, not destroyed, contained. Cronus is no longer present in the center of the field. He has been taken beyond immediate sight, yet his absence is louder than any remaining resistance. The remaining Titans understand what that absence means. The axis of their age has been removed, and with it, the structure that once defined their existence collapses inward. Ancient Greek tradition often emphasized this moment, not as simple victory, but as cosmic reordering. The world does not simply change rulers, it changes shape. Zeus watches the containment of the Titans with a stillness that contrasts sharply with the violence that preceded it. There is no triumph in his expression, only recognition. Because victory once achieved always reveals its cost more clearly than its promise. You follow as the defeated Titans are brought toward the depths beneath the world. not to oblivion, but to Tartarus again, the place that has already held others, the place that now becomes something more than prison. It becomes symbol, a reminder of what happens when power collapses into fear. The descent is long, longer than any mortal journey could comprehend. The air grows colder as you move downward. Light fades gradually, as if reluctant to abandon the upper world entirely. Stone passages echo with the movement of immense beings being led into containment. Some titans resist with silent dignity. Others remain motionless, as though accepting the inevitability of their path. Oceanus does not descend. He remains at the edges of conflict, neither fully punished nor fully absolved. Themis watches from afar, her expression unreadable, as though recording the moment for a judgment that has not yet been spoken. Even Prometheus observes from a distance, his awareness heavy with understanding. Because victory does not erase consequences, it multiplies them. At the gates of Tartarus, the Cyclopes stand in silence, not as prisoners now, but as guardians of the new order they helped create. Their forged weapons no longer active in battle, but present in memory. The Thunderbolt's existence alone is enough to remind the cosmos what has changed. The 100-handed ones oversee the final transfer of Titan power into containment. Each movement is precise, final, irreversible. And when the last of the Titans crosses the threshold into Tartarus, the world exhales. But not in relief, in adjustment. Zeus does not enter the prison. He stands above it, looking down into the depths where the old order now resides. Cronus is there, not at the center anymore, but present, reduced not in existence but in authority. For the first time since the beginning of the Titan Age, he is no longer ruler of anything. The silence between father and son stretches across impossible distance. No final words are exchanged in most traditions. Only presence, only the understanding that cycles have completed themselves, and something new has begun in their place. Above, the surface world begins to heal. Storms settle into natural patterns. Seas return to their boundaries. Mountains stop shifting as though uncertain of their shape. The cosmos, for the first time in a long while, begins to stabilize. But stability is not yet peace. It is transition. Zeus turns away from Tartarus. The weight of what has been done does not leave him. It simply changes form, and as he ascends back toward the world of light, the realization settles quietly across all divine awareness. The Titan War is over, but what comes after it has not yet been defined, and that undefined future now belongs to him. The war is ended. But endings in the world of gods do not feel like closure. They feel like rearrangement. You stand once again beneath a sky that no longer fractures under pressure. The storms have calmed. The air is clearer. Light returns in steady, familiar rhythms. Yet everything feels different, as though the universe has been quietly rebuilt while you were watching. Zeus stands with the surviving Olympians upon a high ridge where clouds drift below their feet. The thunderbolt rests quietly in his hand now, no longer erupting, no longer burning, but its presence still reshapes the air around it, as if reality remembers what it is capable of. Behind him, the Cyclopes and 100-handed ones remain stationed in silence, not as instruments of war anymore, but as guardians of what has been established. Below them stretches a world that has survived its first true divine collapse, and now it must be divided. Ancient Greek tradition does not present this division as punishment or reward alone. It presents it as necessity, because after chaos, structure must be rebuilt, not as it was, but as it must become. Zeus calls his siblings together. The moment is quiet, more solemn than celebratory. Even Poseidon, usually restless, feels the weight of what is about to happen. Hades stands still, already distant in thought. Hera watches carefully, aware that what is decided now will define eternity. Demeter senses the importance not just for gods, but for the living world below. And Hestia remains the quiet center, grounding everything simply by being present. The cosmos is about to be divided, not broken, organized. Zeus speaks. His voice carries the calm authority of someone who has seen both collapse and survival. The sky will be his domain, not as ownership, but as responsibility. The storms, the air, the movement of light across creation will belong to his watch. Poseidon steps forward. The sea responds before he even speaks. Waves shift in distant horizons. Currents stir beneath calm waters. He accepts dominion over the oceans, not as conquest, but as resonance, a realm that reflects his nature. Then Hades. He does not step forward quickly. There is hesitation, not fear, but recognition of depth. When he speaks, it is with quiet acceptance. The underworld will be his domain, not as punishment, but as necessity, a place where all things return, where endings are preserved rather than erased. The division is complete. Sky, sea, underworld. 3 realms, 3 responsibilities, 1 cosmos. Ancient audiences often understood this moment as the true birth of order after chaos, not the defeat of the Titans, but the structuring of existence itself. The world becomes intelligible again, not because it is simple, but because it is divided into meaningful domains. Yet, even as this structure forms, nothing feels entirely settled, because power always creates new questions. Zeus looks outward across the newly ordered cosmos. The sky responds subtly to his presence, as though recognizing its new steward. But recognition is not the same as harmony. Far below, Oceanus continues his endless flow, neither fully included nor excluded from the new structure. Themis observes from a place beyond immediate authority, aware that justice now must adapt to a world it did not design. Prometheus watches silently, already considering what this new order will demand from those who live within it. And Métis remains beside Zeus, her expression thoughtful, as though seeing not only what has been created, but what may eventually follow it. Because every structure contains within it the seeds of its own future transformation. The division of the cosmos is not an end. It is a beginning with clearer boundaries. That night the sky above Olympus is calmer than it has been in ages. Stars appear in familiar patterns. Winds move gently through the heights. Yet Zeus does not sleep easily. He stands alone looking outward. The thunderbolt rests nearby, no longer active, but never truly dormant. In his mind he returns to Cronus, not as enemy, but as mirror, a reflection of what power becomes when fear shapes it for too long. Ancient myths often end conflicts here, but life, even divine life, continues. And continuation always brings new uncertainty. A distant storm forms over the horizon, not violent, not threatening, just present, a reminder that balance is never permanent, only maintained. And as Zeus watches it, he understands something quietly. The Titan war has ended, but the responsibility of what comes next has only just begun. The sky is quiet now, not empty, not still, but balanced in a way it has never been before. You stand at the edge of Olympus as the first true night of the new age settles across creation. Stars appear one by one, patient and distant, as if they too are adjusting to a world that no longer trembles under constant war. The air feels lighter, but not innocent. Nothing can return to innocence after what has been witnessed. Zeus stands beside you in silence. The thunderbolt rests at his side, no longer burning with stormlight, yet never truly dormant. It feels less like a weapon now, and more like a reminder. A memory of what the cosmos has survived. Behind him, the new order is in place. Sky above, sea below, underworld beneath. A structure born from collapse. A structure born from necessity. Yet, even as the cosmos settles into its divisions, something deeper lingers. Memory. Because nothing in Greek myth is ever fully erased, only transformed. Far away beneath layers of stone and darkness, the Titans remain within Tartarus. Not gone, not destroyed. Contained within the memory of the world itself. Cronus is among them. No longer king, no longer center, but still present, still aware. Some traditions say he sits in silence, reflecting on the prophecy that shaped his choices. Others say he rages against the walls of fate. Others still suggest a quieter truth that time itself has softened even divine certainty into something like thought. No version agrees completely, and perhaps that is the point. Because myth is not fixed. It shifts like memory carried across generations. On Olympus, Zeus does not celebrate in the way mortals might expect. There are no final victories here, only responsibility continuing forward. He looks across the world he now helps sustain. Storms obey his call but do not belong to him. They move through a system larger than any single ruler. Poseidon listens to the sea and understands its moods, its depths, its quiet violence and calm beauty. Hades governs what is hidden, what is final, what is necessary for all things that live. Each realm now carries weight. Each god carries burden. And balance depends not on dominance, but on restraint. Ancient Greeks often understood this as a warning hidden inside a triumph. Power does not end conflict. It simply changes its form. Métis stands nearby. Her presence is quiet but constant. She does not speak often now. She does not need to. Her wisdom has already shaped the path that led here. Yet even she understands that wisdom is not the end of uncertainty. It is only the ability to move through it with clearer sight. Prometheus, watching from a distance, remains thoughtful. He has seen what liberation can create. He has also seen what control can become. And in that tension, he recognizes the fragile truth of the new age. It is not stable. It is structured, and structure can still fracture. On this final night, the wind moves gently across Olympus, not as warning, not as omen, but as continuation. The world below is alive again in familiar ways. Rivers flow within their boundaries. Forests grow without divine disruption. Mortals, though not yet fully part of this tale, will one day look upward and give names to the stars that witnessed everything. But for now, the gods remain present and aware. Zeus steps forward toward the edge of the sky. Below stretches a world that no longer belongs to a single empire, but to a system of shared forces. He remembers Crete. He remembers Tartarus. He remembers the moment Cronus fell. And he understands something that no victory can erase. Every ruler becomes a memory eventually. Every order becomes history. The question is never whether change will come, only whether it will come through collapse or understanding. The Titan War is over, but its echo remains. In every current of wind, every movement of sea, every shadow beneath stone, even in the silence between stars. As night deepens, Zeus finally turns away from the horizon, not in dismissal, but in acceptance. The cosmos continues without needing to be conquered, only maintained, only understood, only balanced. And somewhere far beneath the visible world in depths older than memory, the last remnants of the old age remain suspended in time, waiting, not for revenge, not for return, but for the slow unfolding of whatever the next age will become. The world sleeps, not peacefully, but knowingly, and as you drift with it into silence, you carry the sense that nothing in existence is ever truly finished, only transformed into what comes next.